Chapter 3079. Lumu happened to be one of the people in the first group. As the array was activated, Lumu's consciousness was instantly sucked away. This was the power of the array. After a moment of dizziness, Lumu found himself in a room. This room was too familiar to Lumu. This was the room where he lived when he was young. It was exactly the same as his memories. The scene was 100% restored and extremely realistic. Even though he knew that everything was fake, he could not help but miss everything in front of him. Moo-er. At the same time, a shout suddenly came from outside the door. Hearing this voice, Mu Chen's entire body trembled and he froze on the spot. Mother! Hearing this voice that he had yearned for day and night, Lumu could no longer hold it in. In Lumu's heart there was one thing that he was obsessed with, and that was his mother. No one knew how sad Lumu was when his mother passed away when he was young. Since then, Lumu had buried his mother deep in his heart. Although he had never told anyone about this, Lumu could not help but miss his mother in the depths of his heart every night. Although many years had passed, and Lumu had already grown from an ignorant child to a proud son of heaven. But even so, his mother still occupied an extremely important position in his heart. Many times, Lumu even wondered if his mother would not have died if he had been able to grow up a little earlier. He would have been able to take care of his mother. Just when Lumu's thoughts were running wild, the door was pushed open and a woman wearing a simple long dress walked in. The woman's appearance could not be considered extremely beautiful, but she gave off a quiet and gentle feeling. Especially the smile on her lips, it was as if it could warm one's heart, making one involuntarily have a good impression of her. Moo-er, why didn't you answer your mother when she called you? The woman was naturally Lumu's mother. Looking at the familiar mother in front of him, she was exactly the same as the one in his memories. Lumu's eyes instantly moistened. How many years had it been? The person that he had yearned for day and night had once again appeared in front of him. Lumu did not know how to describe his feelings. Looking at the stunned Lumu, the woman stepped forward and gently patted his forehead. What's wrong? Why are you standing there like a fool? Mother! Hearing the beautiful woman's words, Lumu shouted in a hoarse voice. She had never thought that she would be able to see her mother again one day. She couldn't help but reach out to hug her mother. The child had grown up and was even a head taller than his mother. He leaned his head gently on his mother's shoulder. Lumu could even smell the unique fragrance on her body. This was the smell that he had always smelled when he was young. You rascal, you're already so old, yet you're still like this. Lumu's mother smiled at Lumu's action and patted him on the back. All right, it's time to eat. Hearing his mother's words, Lumu smiled and nodded. It was the same home, the same courtyard, and his mother's unique craftsmanship. It was as if he had returned to his childhood. The only difference was that Lumu had grown up. Lumu wolfed down the food cooked by his mother. His mother watched him with a smile on her face. She even reminded Lumu to eat slowly. You child, why are you wolfing down the food? Mother's cooking is delicious. Hearing this, Lumu said vaguely. The taste of the food might be ordinary to others, but to Lumu, it was the most delicious thing in the world. It was something that he had always missed in his life. In the illusion, Lumu felt his mother's gentleness, which made him extremely dependent on her. All the regrets in his heart seemed to have been made up for at this moment. Being able to stay by his mother's side, Lumu felt very satisfied. Time passed quickly in the illusion. Lumu stayed by his mother's side like this. 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. In the blink of an eye, several years had passed. However, Lumu had no intention of leaving. This was obviously not a good sign because if this continued, Lumu would very likely be completely lost in the illusion. However, there was no one who could help him now. Whether he could break through the illusion and break the formation depended on Lumu himself. No one knew what one would encounter in the illusion. In the outside world, more than 2 hours had passed. Many people had broken through the illusion and passed the test. At this time, only a few people were still struggling in the illusion, and Lu Mu was one of them. The dozen or so divine temple experts in charge of the test looked at Lu Mu with surprise in their eyes. They had naturally paid attention to Lu Mu. After all, his talent was one of the best among all the geniuses. He was one of the most promising seedlings. But now everyone else had passed the test, but Lu Mu had not moved at all. This was a little strange. What's wrong with Lu Mu? With his ability, he shouldn't be like this. Maybe he has some obsession in his heart. After all, the formation that Lord Li Tian personally created is not simple. Obsession in his heart? This is not a good thing. Sigh, let's wait and see. I hope this kid doesn't fail miserably. The dozen or so divine temple experts were worried for Lu Mu. If Lu Mu could not pass the test, it would be a pity. With his talent, if he could be nurtured by the divine temple, his future achievements would definitely be better than most people. It was indeed hard to accept being eliminated just because of an obsession in one's heart. Not only were the divine temple experts in charge of the test paying attention to Lu Mu, Wang Kun and Wu Xia were also looking at Lu Mu's figure and frowning. What's wrong with this guy? Wang Kun was speechless. In his opinion, with Lu Mu's temperament, he should have broken through the formation long ago. But why was there no movement until now? Could it be that he was already trapped in the formation? That was impossible. He was very familiar with Lu Mu and knew what kind of person he was. His determination was far from what ordinary people could compare to. If others could break through the formation and pass the test, there was no reason for Lu Mu to fail. Maybe it's his own choice. He saw the person he wanted to see in the formation. Wu Xia said indifferently. She was right. Lu Mu was right. Wasn't Lu Mu the person he had always wanted to see in the array? A person he would never forget for the rest of his life. Please add, recommend, vote. Chapter 3080. Many people in the outside world were secretly paying attention to Lu Mu. In the dreamland, Lu Mu had been living by his mother's side for dozens of years. Although it was an illusion, everything was extremely real. With Li Tian's mastery of formations, it was naturally not difficult for him to achieve this. For decades, Lu Mu had forgotten about cultivation and everything in the outside world. He only cared about enjoying life with his mother by his side. It seemed that he was really immersed in the illusion and had completely sunk into oblivion and confusion. But in reality, only Lu Mu himself knew what he was thinking. As usual, Lu Mu woke up early in the morning. His mother had cooked breakfast, but this time Lu Mu did not eat. Instead, he came to his mother with a calm expression and a smile on his face. "Mother, I should go." "Go? Where are you going?" Hearing this, his mother was stunned. In response, Lu Mu said in a gentle tone, "This place does not belong to me. I'm really happy to be able to enter this illusion." In fact, Lu Mu had not fallen into the illusion from the beginning to the end. The reason why he was not in a hurry to break out was because Lu Mu wanted to spend more time with his mother. Although he knew that this was an illusion and that the woman in front of him was not his real mother, Lu Mu just wanted to stay a little longer. That was all. Now that decades had passed, Lu Mu knew that it was time for him to leave. These decades were something that Lu Mu would never forget in his life. It was also the happiest time of his life. His mother in the illusion made up for his life's regrets and allowed Lu Mu to fulfill his filial piety in another way. Lu Mu said in a low voice as he reached out and hugged his mother slowly. "Mother, I'm leaving. Don't worry, I won't let you down." As he spoke, the surrounding scene began to collapse inch by inch. The illusion was directly broken by Lu Mu. In the outside world, only Lu Mu had not completed the first test. The others had either failed or succeeded, but they had all finished the test. Just as everyone was worried, Lu Mu, who had been motionless all this time, slowly opened his eyes. Seeing this, the dozen or so experts in charge of the test slowly breathed a sigh of relief. What did this kid see in the illusion? One of them smiled bitterly. They did not want Lu Mu to fail like this. After all, he was indeed a rare seedling. Seeing that Lu Mu had successfully passed, they heaved a sigh of relief. "What's wrong with you?" On the other side, Wang Kuan asked doubtfully when he saw that Lu Mu had finally broken out of the formation. Given Lu Mu's temperament, he shouldn't have spent so much time on it. He should have succeeded long ago. In response, Lu Mu only smiled and did not say anything. What made Lu Mu the happiest wasn't that he had passed the test, but that he had seen his mother, whom he had missed for a long time. Moreover, after this incident, Lu Mu realized that his state of mind seemed to have changed a little. Some of the regrets in the past had been completely made up for. He had gained a lot. Raising his head to look at the sky, Lu Mu seemed to see his mother smiling at him. The following tests proceeded in an orderly manner. Those who passed could naturally continue to stay. As for those who failed, even if they were extremely unwilling, they could only leave. There were people in charge of escorting them out of the holy temple. But in general, not many people were eliminated. After all, there was the first round of the preliminary test, and those who wanted to fish in troubled waters were all eliminated. Those who were able to last until now were all true geniuses with real talent. It was understandable. It was normal. On average, out of 100 people, only 4 or 5 would be eliminated. Different from Lu Mu, Wang Kuan and Wu Xia easily passed the confidence test. The two of them used less than a quarter of an hour to pass the test. It was extremely fast. After 3 days, everyone was done with the test, and finally there were 10,000 people left. And these people would be disciples of the Holy Temple in the future, and the Holy Temple would recognize their status. Congratulations to all of you! From today onwards, you are disciples of the Holy Temple. Looking at the people who were left in the end, the Holy Temple expert in charge of the test said loudly. Hearing this, everyone laughed excitedly. They had finally succeeded in joining the Holy Temple. From today onwards, they would be disciples of the Holy Temple, and would also be able to use the cultivation resources of the Holy Temple. In the following cultivation, there will be people in charge of teaching you. Of course, you can also use some of the cultivation mystic realms in the Holy Temple. When the time comes, someone will tell you. There were many cultivation mystic realms in the Holy Temple, and some of them could not be entered at will. However, most of the cultivation mystic realms could be used by these young geniuses. From the beginning, the Holy Temple's intention was to spare no effort in nurturing these young geniuses. Therefore, the Holy Temple would not be stingy in the aspect of cultivation resources. As soon as he finished speaking, the Holy Temple expert took out many jade bottles from his storage ring. With a wave of his hand, each genius received a jade bottle. This is a top-tier saint-level elixir, the Saint Spirit Elixir. Consider it a small reward for passing the test. Hearing this, the geniuses were in an uproar. The Saint Spirit Elixir was no stranger to them. However, in the outside world, it was extremely precious. Every Saint Spirit Elixir in the outside world was a peerless treasure that would cause a mad scramble. Among the geniuses, there were some who were fortunate enough to have consumed a Saint Spirit Elixir before, but that was only 1 pill. But now, the Holy Temple's greeting gift was a bottle of Saint Spirit Elixir, a total of 10 pills. Was this the Holy Temple's foundation? The top-tier saint-level elixir, the Saint Spirit Elixir, was a mere greeting gift in the outside world. It was no exaggeration to say that just 1 Saint Spirit Elixir was enough for many to make a breakthrough in their cultivation. With 10 pills, the geniuses present would probably be able to make a breakthrough in their cultivation by at least 4 or 5 minor realms. It would not be an exaggeration to say that they could make a breakthrough in their cultivation by 1 major realm. The Holy Temple's generosity was truly unexpected. This also made many geniuses feel that their previous efforts were not in vain. The Holy Temple was indeed a place where one's destiny could be changed. Especially those geniuses who were born ordinary. If they did not seize this opportunity, it would be wishful thinking for them to obtain a Saint Spirit elixir. It would be impossible for them to have such an opportunity. Looking at the excited faces of the young geniuses, the leading Holy Temple expert smiled faintly. That's it? They had underestimated the Holy Temple's foundation. The Saint Spirit elixir was just an appetizer. There were many more things that would shock these young geniuses in the future. Otherwise, how could the Holy Temple be so confident that these young geniuses would be able to mature completely within 100 years? Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 3081. The young geniuses' assessment was finally over. The remaining people would be true disciples of the sacred palace from then on. Not only would they receive cultivation resources from the sacred palace, but they would also receive protection from the sacred palace. It could be said that they were like fish that had leaped over the dragon's gate. After a night of silence, an expert from the sacred palace came the next day and explained the rules of the sacred palace to the crowd. He also told them about the cultivation secret realms that the geniuses could use. In the beginning, the geniuses could use a total of 3 cultivation secret realms. There was no limit to the number of times or time they could use it. As long as they could do it, they could stay in there forever. The 3 cultivation secret realms were obviously not simple. One had rich spiritual energy, one strengthened the body, and one tempered the soul. It could be said that any of the secret realms were extremely useful to the geniuses. Hearing that, the geniuses became even more excited. From yesterday's Saint Spirit pill to today's 3 great cultivation mystic realms, the sacred temple had treated them exceptionally well. Moreover, in the entire land of all living, there was probably no sect that could have the cultivation secret realms of the sacred palace. In terms of grade, it was much higher than the outside world. Therefore, after the expert from the sacred palace finished speaking, the geniuses could not wait to rush into the secret realms, wanting to experience the effects of the secret realms. The spiritual energy is too rich. Is this a spiritual spring? And there's not just one. It's all densely packed. The spiritual energy has turned into liquid. This is my first time seeing a place with such rich spiritual energy. The geniuses who entered the first secret realm were all stunned as soon as they entered. It was not that they were ignorant, but it was because the spiritual energy there was just too rich. It was so rich that it was terrifying. Even a disciple of a large sect like Lu Mu had never seen such rich spiritual energy. The Star sect was already considered a powerful sect in the land of all living. However, even in the Star sect, there had never been such a cultivation secret realm. It was not an exaggeration to say that with such rich spiritual energy, even if a pig was put in there and ate and slept every day, it would probably grow into a beast in a few years. The most ridiculous thing was that the sacred palace did not restrict them at all in such a precious cultivation place. There was no need for contribution points or anything like that, nor was there a time limit. Everyone could enter whenever they wanted, and they could stay as long as they wanted. If I cultivate here with the help of the Saint Spirit pill, I feel like I'll be able to break through within a month. 1 more month. I only need half a month. Hey! Damn it, I've already taken a Saint Spirit pill yesterday. If I had known earlier, I would have kept it. This was just an ordinary secret ground for cultivation. However, in the eyes of these genius disciples, it was just like a dream. As for the second and third cultivation realms, the situation was not any better. Among these prodigy disciples, there were naturally body cultivators who specialized in tempering their bodies. Their requirements for spirit chi were not high. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to the first cultivation secret realm. Instead, he headed straight for the second secret realm, which was specifically used to cultivate his physical body. This place was different from the first cultivation mystic realm. The spirit chi here was not as abundant, and it was always extremely hot. As far as the eye could see, there were many volcanoes standing in the middle. These volcanoes were real. Shao Qin and the other divine ancestors had used mysterious and powerful means to capture and bring them here. Thus, this secret realm was formed. They used the hot magma in the volcanoes to temper their bodies. Of course, there were also various formations to assist them. It could be said that this was definitely the best place to cultivate one's physical body. As expected of the sacred palace, they are so generous and unpredictable. If I cultivate here, my physical body will definitely improve further and complete a complete transformation. Nonsense. Even a pig wouldn't stand still in this place. It was the right choice to join the sacred palace. The group of prodigies entered the 3 cultivation secret realms one after another. While they were still in shock, a sacred palace ancient era expert appeared in each secret realm. The 3 ancient era experts were in charge of the 3 secret realms. Little guys, I will personally guide you in your cultivation from now on. Not only did they have sufficient resources and terrifying cultivation secret realms, but they also had ancient era experts as teachers. Ancient era experts. In the entire land of all living beings, only the sacred palace had such experts. They were second only to the divine ancestors. In the past, many prodigy disciples had not even seen an ancient era expert before, let alone a teacher. As a result, the prodigies' hearts burned even more fervently. They could already see themselves after the transformation. In the sacred palace, the prodigy disciples had already started cultivating. Everything was going according to plan. Shao Chen and the others did not need to care about these matters. Of course, Shao Chen and the others did not have the time or energy to deal with these matters. In other words, none of the sacred ancestors were in the sacred hall. They had all gone out to search for opportunities. In the face of the threat of the foreign races, not only did the prodigy disciples need to improve, but even the primogenitors also needed to improve their strength. Compared to the prodigy disciples, it was obviously more difficult for Shao Chen and the others to improve. Therefore, there was no hope for them to stay in the land of all living beings. Shao Chen had already found his own opportunity, the incomparably precious core of heaven and earth. Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Mo He Heizu, Dongfang Yun, and the others were also searching for their own opportunities. At this moment, Lin Yun, who had left a few days later than Shao Chen, was shuttling through the endless starry sky. During this period of time, Lin Yun had gone to many places. It was as if she wanted to travel to every corner of the world. Such a journey was a bit lonely. He couldn't help feeling a bit lonely, but he also saw many things that he hadn't seen before. Like Shao Chen, she even sensed that the world was attached to her. Some of the new small worlds were born in them. After the previous battle, the world seemed to have begun to heal itself. This was obviously good news. However, Lin Yun was not as lucky as Shao Chen. For the time being, she had not encountered any great opportunities. Her strength also did not have any obvious improvement. Most of the treasures in the world are meaningless to me. It is indeed not easy to improve. She sighed helplessly as she hurried through the starry sky. Just as Lin Yun's voice fell, a stream of light suddenly appeared in the distant sky. An inexplicable aura spread in all directions. Sensing this aura, Lin Yun's eyes flashed. Without thinking much, she immediately chased after it. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendation. Chapter 3082. Lin Yun sensed an inexplicable fluctuation. She vanished on the spot in a flash and headed straight in the direction of the aura. Shortly after, Lin Yun arrived at a spatial vortex and gazed at the constantly twisting vortex. The entire starry sky was like the surface of the water, constantly churning. Inside here, she spread out her divine senses and sensed that something seemed to be taking shape in the spatial vortex. Besides, it was definitely not an ordinary treasure. Lin Yun pondered for a moment and quickly made a decision. She dashed into the spatial vortex in a flash. Then, she lost control of her body as though it was being pulled into the depths by an unknown force. This was the power of a sacred ancestor like Lin Yun. If it were anyone else, even if they were ancient creatures, they would probably be torn into pieces instantly under the pull of such power. Such power wasn't something that ordinary people could resist. Even Lin Yun had to be cautious. But with Lin Yun's strength, there shouldn't be any problem if she wanted to ensure her safety. After an unknown period of time, the suction force gradually disappeared and Lin Yun came to a stop. She looked around. It was still pitch black, but it didn't seem like an endless starry sky. Instead, she was in a mysterious place. She didn't know where she was. But soon, Lin Yun spotted a light spot. The light spot seemed to contain a world with mountains and rivers, abundant spiritual energy, and perfect rules. The light spot was only the size of a fist, but it was as though it was a world in the palm of her hand. It was extremely extraordinary. Is this a world seed? Looking at the light spot, Lin Yun's expression changed quickly. In an ancient book, Lin Yun read about the introduction of a world seed. This was definitely a treasure of heaven and earth. It wasn't inferior to the heart of heaven and earth that Xiao Chen obtained. In an instant, even Lin Yun couldn't help but get excited. If she could obtain this world seed and refine it, her strength would definitely improve. She didn't expect to find such an opportunity. Lin Yun suppressed the excitement in her heart. This was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. She reached out to touch the world seed, and it didn't seem to reject Lin Yun. Soon, Lin Yun grabbed it in her hand. In an instant, Lin Yun had a magical feeling. How should she put it? It was as though she was holding a world in her hand, and everything in it could belong to her. How terrifying was it to integrate an entire world into one's body? At least, ancient creatures couldn't do it. Only a sacred ancestor like Lin Yun was able to do it. She immediately decided to refine the world seed. This world seed was a treasure that could help her improve. Holding the world seed with both hands, Lin Yun sat cross-legged in that mysterious space. Strands of inexplicable energy continuously flowed into Lin Yun's body, and Lin Yun's aura began to slowly increase. Lin Yun's cultivation, which had been stagnant for a long time, began to slowly increase. This made Lin Yun extremely excited. As expected of a world seed, it was indeed powerful. She had only just started to refine it, and she could already feel her cultivation increasing. This was something that no other treasure could do. For example, those elixirs. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even if Lin Yun ate those elixirs like jelly beans, there would definitely be no effect, and such a situation wouldn't occur. This was the benefit of a true treasure. Lin Yun also found her own opportunity here. On the other side, in the blue water world, Mu Lingxian descended once again. He had already been here once before. This time, Mu Lingxian wasn't here to revisit the old place. He was here to find a treasure. Are you sure you want to go? This isn't a joke. Lan Yu looked at Mu Lingxian and said solemnly. Mu Lingxian was actually going to enter a famous place of death in the blue water world. This place had existed since the birth of the blue water world. However, no one had ever dared to approach it because no matter who it was, as long as they were within 10,000 miles of this place, they would immediately explode and die. However, Mu Lingxian was actually going to enter this place of death. Mu Lingxian said calmly to Lan Yu's shock. That's right. Last time, I felt that there was something inside that was very useful to me. Even if it was useful, it's too dangerous. Even world lords don't dare to go near that place. If even world lords couldn't go near it, one could imagine how terrifying that place of death was. Alright, I've made up my mind. Mu Lingxian didn't hesitate at all. He had already made up his mind. Moreover, there was an 80% chance that there was something he needed inside. Whether or not he could increase his strength depended on this. Since Mu Lingxian insisted, Lan Yu had no choice but to nod and agree. At the same time, Ancestor He, Mo He, Dong Fong Yun, and the others were also looking for their own opportunities. It was unknown if the heavens and earth had sensed the invasion of the foreign tribes. Hence, many legendary treasures appeared one after another. This also gave Shao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others hope to increase their strength and fight against the foreign tribes. As for the other half, outside the spatial fault, the foreign tribes were still sparing no effort to break through the spatial fault. As long as there were no spatial faults blocking them, they would be able to directly attack the so-called land of infinite stars. However, today, a group of people from the foreign tribes came. The leader was a beautiful woman. She was extremely beautiful and didn't lose out to Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning, and the others. Moreover, along the way, many foreign tribes' martial artists were very respectful to her. It was obvious that this woman's status in the foreign tribes was not low. She came directly to a palace that was as big as a continent. Within it, the middle-aged man who had met Shao Chen was already waiting. Seeing the woman walk over, the middle-aged man smiled. "I thought you wouldn't come." You've already reported the news to the emperor. What can I do?" In response, the woman harumphed coldly. It was obvious that she was dissatisfied with the middle-aged man's actions. She sat down beside the middle-aged man. It was obvious that the two of them were of equal status. Hence, the woman didn't restrain herself in front of the middle-aged man. "Why? It's just an undeveloped heavens and earth. You don't have the confidence to take it down? This land of infinite stars is a little different. Moreover, as a precaution, the two of us should join forces. That way we'll have more confidence." Aren't you ashamed to say that? Two warlord kings joining forces. Won't others laugh to death if word gets out? Let them laugh. Anyway, the most important thing is to complete the mission given by the emperor. Nothing else matters. The middle-aged man and the woman spoke. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3083. Another person who was at the same level as the middle-aged man appeared on the side of the foreign race. Another person who was at the same level as the middle-aged man appeared on the side of the foreign race. Moreover, with the arrival of the beautiful woman, there were many more outstanding experts on the side of the foreign race. Outside the spatial fault, palaces that looked like continents floated in the starry sky. All the experts of the foreign race lived here. There was no way to know the number of experts, but there should be no less than 1,000,000 of them. Now, they just had to wait for the spatial fault to open. Then, they would be able to charge in and take down the land of infinite stars. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the beautiful woman smiled faintly. "Then let's do it. Anyway, His Majesty has already ordered me to cooperate with you. Let's start with the spatial fault. With the two of us working together, we should be able to shorten the time." "That's great." As they spoke, more experts began to appear outside the spatial fault. They intended to break the spatial fault in the shortest time possible. As the strength of the foreign race increased, the speed at which the spatial fault was being broken decreased greatly. Little Qing, who had been guarding here, naturally sensed the change immediately. Little Qing had not left the spatial fault ever since she arrived. She had been studying the spatial fault. As a spirit of heaven and earth, Little Qing seemed to have some kind of connection with the spatial fault. She could sense the extremely minute changes. At this moment, the spatial fault was collapsing at a much faster speed than before. There was obviously a problem. The spatial fault that could have held on for 100 years was now unable to hold on for another 100 years as the speed increased. "Is it because of the foreign race?" Little Qing murmured softly as she looked at the spatial fault in front of her. The speed had increased by so much. It definitely had something to do with the foreign race. This was obviously not good news for the land of infinite stars. After all, Xiao Chen and the others were still trying their best to increase their strength. The others also needed some time to prepare. If the spatial fault was broken before then, the plan would have to be changed. They still needed to speed up and make sufficient preparations before the spatial fault broke. Moreover, the best situation was to block the foreign race here and prevent the flames of war from spreading to all parts of the Land of Infinite Stars. The Land of Infinite Stars had suffered great losses in the battle with the Origin world. Now, the world had just shown some signs of recovery. If they were to experience another great war that engulfed the entire world, then this world would definitely not be able to withstand it. The already fragile realm of infinite stars could no longer withstand the destruction of the flames of war. Her face was grim, but she had no way of stopping the actions of the outsiders. Even as a spirit of the world, Shaoqing was unable to pass through the spatial fault, just like how the foreign races were unable to pass through the spatial fault. I hope that Xiao Chun and the others can be faster. There's also Li Tian and Xianyuan Ling. Little Qing was unable to help Xiao Chen and the others improve their strength, because this was no longer something that she could do. As for Li Tian, Xianyuan Ling, and the others, they had to speed up. He immediately sent the news of the spatial fault back to the temple so that Li Tian, Xianyuan Ling, and the others could make preparations. Little Qing sat down cross-legged outside the spatial fault and closed her eyes to cultivate. To Little Qing, it didn't matter where she cultivated. By guarding the spatial fault, she would at least be able to detect the movements of the foreign races as soon as possible and serve as an early warning. Therefore, Little Qing didn't plan to return to the Land of All Life. On the other side of the Land of All Life, within the temple, Xianyuan Ling and Li Tian naturally received Little Qing's message. After learning about the abnormalities at the spatial fault, both of them frowned. Originally, they were already on the right track. The experts of the various factions were also frantically improving their strength during this period of time. As for those prodigious disciples, with the help of the temple, their cultivation could be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. Of course, to truly make a qualitative leap, this amount of time was definitely not enough. But now, Little Qing said that something had happened at the spatial fault. They definitely wouldn't be able to hold on for 100 years. According to Little Qing's estimation, it would take at most 70 or 80 years. All of a sudden, 20 or 30 years had been brought forward. This meant that Xianyuan Ling, Li Tian, and the others couldn't continue on the same path. They had to speed up their progress. Sigh, this is going to be very stressful. There's nothing we can do about it. There must be changes at the outsider's side. We can't just sit back and do nothing. The pressure was great, but they could only withstand it and make corresponding changes. Continue to invest more and let those little guys grow up as soon as possible. That's the only way. Right? Is there enough origin energy? It should be enough, but I don't know when those little guys can break through to the progenitor realm. With their cultivation, there shouldn't be any problem breaking through to the progenitor realm. The most important thing is still time. Open the rest of the cultivation mystic realms to them directly. After the discussion, Xianyuan Ling and Li Tian quickly made changes. They increased the cultivation of those prodigious disciples again. According to their initial expectations, these prodigious disciples should at least reach the level of a world lord. Only then would they be useful and play a decisive role in battle. In order to cultivate these prodigious disciples, the temple could be said to have gathered all the origin energy. Many of them were obtained from the origin world. Time passed in the blink of an eye. 70 years passed very quickly. A few decades was like a day in the land of all beings. Many experts would casually go into seclusion for a few decades or even 100 years. But in these 70 years, the land of all beings could be said to have been in a race against time. Especially the temple, it could be said to have used all kinds of methods, and the results were not bad. At least 70% of the prodigious disciples had begun to fuse with the origin energy. In just a few decades, with the help of the temple, these prodigious disciples could be said to have undergone earth-shaking changes. From the cultivation of the Tao transformation realm at the beginning, all of them had advanced by leaps and bounds, and all of them had risen to the progenitor realm. This was definitely considered a terrifying improvement, but it was still not enough to face the foreign races. At the very least, those who had begun to break through to the world lord level had to succeed. Only then would they be considered to have achieved their desired goal. In these 70 years, there was no news from Shao Chun, Lin Yun, Mu Lingxian, Ancestor He, Mo He, and Dongfang Yun. No one knew where they were, and no one knew how they were doing now. Shao Chun and the others could improve their strength, which was the most crucial for the upcoming battle. Because they were the top fighting force, Shao Chun and the others had to be able to deal with the foreign race's true expert. Otherwise, they would have no chance at all. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3084. In these 70 years, Sacred Hall had done all they could and made all the preparations they could. In these 70 years, Sacred Hall had done all they could and made all the preparations they could. At the same time, Little Qing had also been guarding the spatial fault for 70 years. His aura was much stronger than it had been 70 years ago. Little Qing had refined 99% of the primogenitor's energy. It was completely different from before. However, Little Qing did not feel happy or gratified at all, even though his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. This was because he knew that no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to fight against the alien race on the other side of the spatial fault alone. As the spatial fault continued to weaken, he could clearly sense the auras on both sides. Little Qing could clearly sense how powerful the alien race was. There were many people who were comparable to divine ancestors, and there were dozens or even hundreds of ancient era beings and world lord. What kind of strength was this? Little Qing was especially wary of the two auras among them. These two auras were not weaker than him at all. In fact, they were even stronger than him. In Little Qing's opinion, these two people might have already surpassed him and the divine ancestors. They were the strongest among the alien race. After a few decades, Little Qing had a rough understanding of the alien race's strength. It was no exaggeration to say that they were much stronger than the origin world. It was no wonder that the primogenitors of the origin world were wary of the alien race. This kind of strength was enough to destroy the land of 1,000 stars. While Little Qing was learning about the alien race's strength, the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman on the alien race's side naturally noticed Little Qing. They knew that someone had been guarding the other side of the spatial fault for the past 70 years. Especially now that the spatial fault was almost transparent, they could vaguely see Little Qing's figure through it. The world spirit of the land of 1,000 stars? That's interesting. It's better not to kill the world spirit. After all, it's the representative of the land. Of course I know that. However, he's not the only expert in the land of 1,000 stars. Is that the person you mentioned last time? But after so many years, I've never seen him. Is he really as strong as you say? That person's strength should be at the divine ancestor level. However, after so many years, I think he should be able to improve further. You mean he can break through the war ancestor realm in a few decades? The beautiful woman clearly did not believe the middle-aged man's words. The two of them were war ancestor realm cultivators, above the holy ancestor realm. However, at their level, it was not easy for them to make a breakthrough. Moreover, they had done it in just a few decades. The middle-aged man said with a smile, "It's just a feeling. Who knows what the specifics are?" He did not give a clear answer, but the feeling that Shao Chun gave him was very extraordinary. He believed that this person was definitely not a simple person. Even in the myriad realms, he could be considered a stunning talent. He was looking forward to meeting Xiao Chen again. The beautiful woman curled her lips and said, "In any case, we will be able to completely break through the spatial fault in 10 years at most. At that time we will naturally know. I want to see how the people you have been praising are like. Don't disappoint me." "Don't worry, I won't disappoint you." The spatial fault could only last for another 10 years at most. This was the final deadline. After 10 years, without the protection of the spatial fault, the land of infinite stars could only face these foreign tribe experts. The day of the war was approaching. Everyone was sitting down to make their final preparations. Especially at the sacred palace, there were terrifying auras and heavenly punishment descending every day. This was the movement of many prodigy disciples breaking through to the World Lord realm. Until now, top prodigies like Lu Mu, Wang Kuan, and Wu Xia had all broken through to the World Lord realm. Their combat strength was even stronger than ordinary World Lord. This was the terror of top prodigies. They were invincible among their peers. As more and more prodigies completed their breakthroughs, Xianyuan Ling, Li Tian, and the rest were in a better mood. At least these decades of hard work and resources were not in vain. These little guys did not disappoint them. Now only third brother and the rest are left. Xianyuan Ling sighed softly. Now they were waiting for Xiao Chen and Lin Yun. There had been no news for decades. No one knew how they were doing. In the ruins of the greater world, in that small world, Xiao Chen had been sitting there for decades without moving. It was as if he had fallen into a wonderful state. Today, Xiao Chen's eyelids finally moved slowly. Then, he opened his eyes. There was a flash of light in his eyes. His aura was obviously different from before. That's right. If the middle-aged man of the foreign tribe was present, he would definitely be able to tell at a glance that Xiao Chen was no longer at the Holy Ancestor realm. Instead, he had successfully broken through to the War Ancestor realm. He had really completed his breakthrough in just a few decades. How terrifying was that? The world's core had been completely absorbed by Xiao Chen. His strength had also risen to a new level. Xiao Chen said expressionlessly, "It's time to change back. The spatial fault shouldn't be able to last for too long." Xiao Chen got up. Without any movement, he took a step forward and disappeared from the spot. It was still the same small mountain village. 70 years had passed, and the old people had turned into piles of yellow soil. The children had also become white-haired old men, and they were on the verge of death. These were ordinary people. Perhaps they had already fallen when you went into seclusion. They were separated by life and death. He sighed softly. This was the life of an ordinary person. To Xiao Chen, they were indeed just passers-by. There was a feeling that things had changed, so Xiao Chen did not show up. Instead, he chose to leave. After all, there were many people who did not recognize him anymore. There was no need to disturb the lives of these people. The small world had left a deep impression on Xiao Chen, but it was a pity that he did not belong to this small world after all. Xiao Chen came out of seclusion and left. No one knew about all of this. On the other side, Lin Yun had also refined the world seed. She opened her eyes and a bright light flashed. Like Xiao Chen, Lin Yun's cultivation had also reached the War Ancestor realm. She had broken through the limit of the Holy Ancestor realm and reached a whole new level. Her strength was much stronger than before. It's time to go back. She had no intention of delaying. After so many years, the situation had probably reached a point where it could explode at any moment. Since that was the case, the Holy Ancestors naturally had to show up and preside over the situation. Therefore, Lin Yun took a step forward and her figure instantly disappeared from this mysterious space. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3085. The spatial fault had reached its limit. The invasion was imminent and a great war was about to break out. Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the other divine ancestors came out of seclusion one after another. In the past few decades, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others had traveled outside, and each of their strengths had improved greatly. Especially Shao Chun and Lin Yun, they had broken through the divine ancestor realm and reached the combat ancestor realm. In the land of all living beings, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others returned to the sacred palace. Xianyuan Ling, Li Tian, and the other higher-ups of the sacred palace heaved a sigh of relief. In the main hall, all the divine ancestors gathered together. Dongfang Yun, Ancestor He, Mo He, and Mu Lingxian had also returned. The cultivation of the four of them had also increased by quite a bit. Clearly, they had all found their own opportunities. However, because the four of them were not as strong as Shao Chun and Lin Yun, they had not been able to break through to the combat ancestor realm this time. Previously, Mu Lingxian and the other three's cultivation bases should have been at the minor divine ancestor realm. In the past few decades, their cultivation bases had successfully reached the great perfection divine ancestor realm. It was a big improvement, but compared to Shao Chun and Lin Yun, the gap between them was getting bigger and bigger. Looking at the faint aura emitted from Shao Chun and Lin Yun, the four felt helpless. Although they were still divine ancestors, only they knew that Shao Chun and Lin Yun had most likely surpassed them. The gap between their strengths was widening little by little. In addition to helplessness, there was also a trace of joy. It was very contradictory. However, when facing the alien race, the stronger Shao Chun and Lin Yun were, the more advantageous it would be for everyone. It was an undeniable fact. First, they listened to Xianyuan Ling and Li Tian talk about what had happened in the sacred palace in the past few decades. They learned that the prodigious disciples had all reached the World Lord realm. Moreover, under the leadership of the sacred palace, the overall strength of the land of all living beings had improved a lot. Compared to the war in the origin world, it could be said that there were new changes with each passing day. The number of experts had skyrocketed. This news was good news for everyone. Even Lin Yun nodded with a smile. Not bad. Thank you for your hard work. Xianyuan Ling and Li Tian had indeed worked hard and made great contributions. It was because of these two that the temple was able to deal with these matters in an orderly manner. After understanding the internal affairs of the divine temple, the message about Little Qing was brought up by everyone. Little Qing, who had been guarding the spatial fault, had sent a message back a few days ago, telling everyone to be prepared. The spatial fault had reached its limit. Regarding this, Shao Chun and Lin Yun's idea was very simple. They wanted to place the battlefield around the spatial fault. That was the edge of the world. There were no life forms there, so it was very difficult for the flames of war to spread to the interior of the domain of myriad stars. They had to control the area of the battle to ensure the stability of the rear. After all, no one wanted the land of 10,000 stars to experience another battle at the level of the origin world. Naturally, no one had any objections to this because this was the best choice. Now that it was time to make preparations for the war, many powerhouses began to rush to the spatial fault. With the return of the divine ancestors, the divine temple began to operate very quickly. Regarding the foreign tribes, it wasn't a secret in the past few decades. As long as one had some status and power, they would know about the foreign tribes and that the war was about to begin. After preparing for such a long time, it was finally time to meet the foreign tribes. The powerhouses of various forces gathered one after another. Starships and spatial spirit boats rose into the sky and flew towards the spatial fault. As one of the few powerful forces in the land of all living beings, the Star Sect naturally couldn't be absent. At that moment, a group of Star Sect's supreme elders, Sect Master and other powerhouses gathered together. Is everything ready? Everything is ready. We can depart at any time. Then let's go. The Divine Temple has ordered us to rush to the spatial fault immediately. That day, dozens of starships rose from the depths of the star sect and quickly left the land of all living beings. There were many powerhouses of the star sect sitting on them. It could be said that the star sect didn't hold back at all this time. All the powerhouses above the Tao transformation realm had to participate in the war. There were many forces like the star sect in the land of all living beings. In order to deal with the attack of the foreign tribes, the Divine Temple didn't dare to be careless at all. It could be said that they had done their best from the beginning. If the other forces were like that, the Divine Temple was even more terrifying. For several days, the Divine Temple had spatial spirit boats flying out. Batch after batch of powerhouses left the land of all living beings and headed towards the spatial fault. In his residence, Shao Chen also planned to leave. After not seeing each other for several decades, it was a pity that he didn't have much time to say goodbye to Qin Shuru and the other ladies. Looking at the worried expressions of the ladies, Shao Chen pretended to be calm and said, "Don't worry. I'll leave the family in your hands. Husband, don't worry. We'll take care of the family." He still didn't plan to bring Qin Shuru and the other ladies with him. After all, the land of all living beings needed someone to guard it, and the ladies were the best candidates. Of course, the difference was that this time, Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Xiao Luan were going to the front line with Shao Chen. In the past few decades, the three of them had completely grown up. Each of their cultivations had reached the level of a world lord. They could be considered as powerhouses. Moreover, the three of them had repeatedly requested to go with Shao Chen. Shao Chen was glad about that. He didn't reject them and nodded in agreement. After all, there were some things that the little ones would have to experience sooner or later. He couldn't let them live under his father's protection forever, right? Shao Chen didn't want his children to grow up in a greenhouse. Take good care of Yao, Lauer, and the others. Before leading them away, 100 Flower Fairy specially reminded them that the battlefield was extremely dangerous. How could 100 Flower Fairy and the others not worry about the children's safety? In response, Shao Chen nodded and said, "Don't worry. I'm just taking them to see it. I won't let them go to places that are too dangerous." After a few simple words of farewell, Shao Chen quickly left the land of all living beings. He didn't take the spatial spirit boat. Instead, he went directly to the spatial fault with Lin Yun. With their current cultivation in the War Ancestor realm, their speed was much faster than the spatial spirit boat. Even Mu Lingxian and the others couldn't compare. Therefore, Shao Chen and Lin Yun planned to go to the spatial fault first to see what was going on with their own eyes. They had already been there once. This time, they were naturally familiar with the way. Without wasting any time, the two of them arrived at the spatial fault. From afar, it was just as little Qing had said. The spatial fault couldn't hold on for too long. It was almost transparent and it was full of cracks. It could shatter at any time. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 3086. Shao Chen and Lin Yun were the first to arrive at the spatial fault. At this moment, the majority of the land of all living beings had yet to arrive, but the two of them arrived at the spatial fault. Looking at the almost transparent fault, their expressions were abnormally solemn. "They're here." Seeing the two of them arrive, little Qing said indifferently. Then, her gaze also landed on the spatial fault. To be honest, little Qing had personally witnessed the spatial fault being broken by the foreign races bit by bit. Now, it was about to shatter at any moment. To little Qing, the only good news at the moment was the strength of Shao Chen and Lin Yun. After not seeing Shao Chen and Lin Yun for decades, little Qing felt a sense of apprehension when facing them. Not to mention anything else, just Shao Chen and Lin Yun's cultivation alone, little Qing could no longer see through them. It was not an exaggeration to say that Shao Chen and Lin Yun's current strength had already surpassed little Qing's. As a spirit of heaven and earth, she was now surpassed by others. This was something that she did not even dare to think about in the past. She did not know how Xiao Chen and the rest did it, but no matter what, this was a good thing for the land of infinite stars. Because the stronger Xiao Chen and the rest were, the greater the possibility of defeating the foreign races. Unaware of Little Qing's thoughts, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun looked at the spatial fault in front of them. They could already see the figures of the foreign races. Their eyes were filled with coldness. To Xiao Chen and the rest, these foreign races were invaders and enemies. On the other hand, on the other side of the fault, many foreign races looked at Xiao Chen and Lin Yun with disdain and sneers. It was as if they were not worried that the land of infinite stars could stop them at all. This was absolute confidence in their own strength. In the eyes of these foreign races, a mere land of infinite stars could not stop them at all. This was because the land of infinite stars was not the only land that they had conquered over the years. A place like the land of infinite stars was a barbarian land in their eyes. How could a mere barbarian land stop their army? Just like that, the two sides coldly stared at each other across the spatial fault. For the time being, there was still the spatial fault blocking them. Therefore, the two sides could not fight for the time being. However, there was not much time left. The spatial fault would not last for too long. After looking at each other coldly, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun retracted their gazes. It was useless to say anything now. Everything still depended on strength. When the spatial fault shattered, it would be the time for both sides to fight. At that time, it wouldn't be something that could be solved by talking. Instead, it would be a real battle. The others are already on their way here. Stop them here and don't let them enter the land of all living beings. Xiao Chen and the others had decided from the very beginning that they absolutely could not allow the alien races to enter the hinterland of the domain of myriad stars. The aftermath of the great battle in the origin world was still fresh in his mind. The world had yet to recover. The many universes of the past were still in ruins. Although there were signs of recovery, the more it was like this, the more fragile the world became. This was because it no longer had the extra strength to go through such a chaotic war again. Moreover, the alien races were stronger than the origin world. This made it even more impossible for them to enter the hinterland of the domain of myriad stars as they wished. The spatial fault was the battlefield. They absolutely could not take a step back. Therefore, Sacred Hall had done their best to mobilize all the experts they could to the front line. Little Qing nodded slightly when she heard Xiao Chen's words. Yes. However, I have observed that a man and a woman are the strongest in the clan. They should be stronger than me. They may be your direct opponents. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were the strongest experts in the domain of myriad stars. Naturally, their opponents would be the strongest experts in the clan. Whether they could stop the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman was very crucial. If they lost even the most elite battles, then there was really no point in fighting. They would lose without a doubt. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were very clear about this. They nodded and did not say anything. They were unable to determine the strength of the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman. However, no matter what, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun would do their best. They could not lose. Not only because their battle strength was heaven-defying, but also because Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were the faith of the domain of myriad stars. If they were defeated, it would be a devastating blow to their morale. Without morale, it was equivalent to collapsing without a fight. 5 days later, the army of the domain of myriad stars arrived one after another. Starships and spatial spirit boats arrived at the spatial fault. It was the first time for many people to see the so-called spatial fault. They were all shocked. Moreover, they were very curious about the race on the other side of the spatial fault. Of course, besides feeling curious, they felt even more solemn, because they knew that these xenorace experts were extremely strong, and they were even stronger than the origin world. According to the previous plan, Xiao Chen and the others quickly prepared a temporary base. Several continents were dragged here by Xiao Chen, Lin Yun, and the others with great power. These continents were incomplete. They were destroyed in the battle with the origin world. However, they were now the base of the domain of myriad stars. On the continents, palaces stood. Shao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others were on the largest continent. This was the command center of the entire domain of myriad stars. Time passed day by day. Shao Chun and the others were fully prepared. They were only waiting for the spatial fault to shatter and face the alien races. At the same time, several continents on the alien race's side slowly flew towards the spatial fault. The two sides faced each other across the spatial fault. They looked like they were on the same level as each other. They did not have to wait for long. Early in the morning, the spatial fault that was already on the verge of collapse finally reached its limit. Along with the sound of shattering mirrors, more and more cracks appeared on the spatial fault and began to spread crazily. Like a spider web, Shao Chun and the others sensed the abnormality. Many experts flew out and arrived at the spatial fault. They watched everything with solemn eyes, waiting for the final battle to break out. Everyone knew that the spatial fault had reached its limit. It was about to shatter. Without the spatial fault, the battle would break out at any moment. It was finally time for them to face the alien races. Under the watchful eyes of Shao Chun and the others, the spatial fault did not last long. After 15 minutes, the entire spatial fault shattered with a muffled sound. Then, an earth-shattering, terrifying pressure swept out wildly through the shattered spatial fault. It pressed down on the many warriors of the domain of myriad stars. Just this pressure alone was unbearable for many people. They felt like their hearts were being hammered by a heavy hammer. Their auras were immediately suppressed. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 3087. Was this a greeting gift? As soon as the spatial fault was broken, the foreign race's aura suppressed everyone, shocking the cultivators from the realm of infinite stars. Sensing the aura, Shao Chun, Lin Yun, Mo He, Mu Lingxian, and the others naturally couldn't remain indifferent. They hadn't even started fighting yet. If they were scared before the battle started, what would they do? Immediately, a monstrous aura erupted from Shao Chun and the others, quickly shattering the aura from the foreign race. The aura swept across the sky. Sensing the aura from Shao Chun and the others, the people below finally calmed down. How could they be scared just by their aura? Shao Chun and the others would never allow such a thing to happen. As the aura from both sides clashed, the foreign race crossed the spatial fault and quickly arrived in front of Shao Chun and the others. Millions of cultivators from both sides faced each other, and the aura became extremely oppressive. Everyone knew that a great battle was about to break out. While Shao Chun and the others were sizing up the foreign race was also sizing up the people from the realm of infinite stars. The leaders of the foreign race were powerhouses whose auras weren't any weaker than Mu Lingxian and Mo He. It seemed that they had also reached the divine ancestor realm. However, compared to Shao Chun and Lin Yun, they were still slightly weaker. If these were the strongest powerhouses of the foreign race, the realm of infinite stars would definitely win because Shao Chun and Lin Yun could easily kill them. However, the reality was obviously not so. The strongest powerhouses of the foreign race were obviously not limited to these because the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman that Shao Qing mentioned didn't appear. They were secretly weighing the strength of the foreign race. At the same time, the foreign race was also secretly sizing up the strength of Shao Chun and the others. When they looked at Mu Lingxian, Mo He, and the others, the leaders of the foreign race didn't change their expressions. Although Mu Lingxian and Mo He weren't weaker than them, they were still at the divine ancestor realm. It was hard to say who would win if they fought. However, when they saw Shao Chun and Lin Yun, they frowned slightly. It was obvious that he had surpassed the divine ancestor realm and had reached the war ancestor realm. This kind of strength was clearly not something they could deal with. I never thought that there would actually be a war ancestor realm existence in the realm of 10,000 stars. What's the big deal? It's just two people. His Majesty and the others will naturally take care of it. Of course, the appearance of two War Ancestor realm rankers was out of their expectations, but that was it. It was not enough to make them feel afraid. While the two sides were sizing each other up, two figures slowly appeared in front of the outsiders. Surprisingly, it was the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman that little Qing had mentioned. The two of them were the strongest among the foreign races. Xiao Chun and the others narrowed their eyes when they saw the two of them. Although the middle-aged man and the beautiful woman did not emit any aura, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun felt danger. They were many times more dangerous than the other foreign races. At the same time, after the middle-aged man appeared, he looked directly at Xiao Chun. He had met Xiao Chun face to face before. At that time, Xiao Chun had left a deep impression on him. Now that they met again, the middle-aged man revealed an expression of, "I knew it." He remembered that when he first met Xiao Chun a few decades ago, he was only at the peak of the Divine Ancestor realm. However, in just a few decades, he had really taken that step and became a War Ancestor realm expert. He had reached the same cultivation level as the middle-aged man. "How is it? I didn't disappoint you, right?" The middle-aged man smiled and said to the beautiful woman beside him. Hearing that, the beautiful woman also sized up Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, then smiled and nodded. A small sealed world can actually have two War Ancestor realm existences. It's indeed extraordinary. For a sealed world like the realm of 10,000 stars, it was already very good that there were Divine Ancestor realm existences. As for War Ancestor realm existences, it was almost impossible. However, now, there were two of them in the realm of 10,000 stars. One had to know that even in the world where the beautiful woman was from, a War Ancestor realm expert was considered a true top expert. For a moment, the beautiful woman was a little interested in the realm of 10,000 stars. No wonder the middle-aged man directly asked the emperor to let her come and help. Looking at the current situation, the middle-aged man's choice was completely correct. If it was just him alone, it was impossible for him to have a chance of winning. "We meet again." At that moment, the middle-aged man took the lead to speak. Hearing that, Xiao Chen also smiled and said, "That's right, we meet again. How is it? Have you thought it through? Do you want to fight or surrender?" In such a situation, there should be no need to answer. Surrender? Xiao Chun had never thought about it. How could his home be ruled by a foreign race? Hearing Xiao Chen's answer, the middle-aged man did not seem surprised at all. He had expected Xiao Chen to make such a choice. The middle-aged man shook his head helplessly and said, "Looks like we still have to fight. Fine, then I'll crush your belief. It won't be too late to surrender then." His eyes were filled with confidence as if he was very confident about this battle. Xiao Chun did not say anything about it. At that moment, the beautiful woman also took a step forward and a monstrous aura soared into the sky from her body. Just her aura alone was enough to change the color of heaven and earth. Her strength was extremely terrifying. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." As she spoke, the beautiful woman immediately prepared to attack. However, Xiao Chen was not displeased at all and immediately blocked her attack. In an instant, the two of them fought fiercely. As Xiao Chen and the beautiful woman attacked, the others naturally did not stay idle. Lin Yun shouted, "Kill! Kill!" In an instant, millions of people from both sides charged at each other and the battle was about to start. In the face of a battle that had been prepared for nearly 100 years, there was nothing much to say. The realm of 10,000 stars would never surrender to the foreign race. However, it was absolutely impossible. As for the foreign race, after breaking through the spatial fault, it was even more impossible for them to hold back. They had already spent too much time in the realm of 10,000 stars. They had to take over this place. Lin Yun also fought with the middle-aged man. His strength was not weaker than Xiao Chen's. In the fierce battle, the middle-aged man praised, It's really shocking that people like you can appear in a mere sealed world. As long as you're willing to surrender, I guarantee that His Majesty will definitely treat you well. Your status will definitely not be lower than mine. How about that? Ha, cut the crap. If you want to fight, let's fight. Lin Yun did not waver at all. He had never even thought about surrendering and would not change his mind just because of a few words from the middle-aged man. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. The error-free chapters of Sword Master Vast Expanse will continue to be updated in the new Booksy Pavilion. There are no advertisements in the website. Please collect and recommend the new Booksy Pavilion. If you like Sword Master Vast Expanse, please collect. Sword Master Vast Expanse's new Booksy Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 3088. A fierce battle broke out between the two sides. The battle that had been waiting for 100 years finally began at this moment. Compared to 100 years ago, the strength of the Land of 1,000 Stars had increased significantly. With the help of Sacred Temple's unstinting efforts, or even all their resources, everyone in the Land of all living beings had improved significantly. It was not an exaggeration to say that with their current strength, they would definitely win if they fought against the Origin World again. They were far stronger than when they fought against the Origin World, especially those prodigious disciples. Under Sacred Temple's careful guidance, each of them was extremely powerful. Even so, the Land of 1,000 Stars still did not have any advantage against the foreign races. The foreign races were not weak either. In terms of the number of experts, they even surpassed the Land of 1,000 Stars. Fortunately, the number of battle ancestors and divine ancestors on both sides was equal. There was not much difference between the two sides. This formed a subtle balance. Not bad. It's really surprising that you have such strength when you just broke through to the battle ancestor realm. The beautiful girl who was engaged in a fierce battle with Xiao Qin seemed to be at ease. She even had a charming smile on her face. With her eyesight, it was not difficult to see that Xiao Qin had just broken through to the battle ancestor realm. However, his battle strength surpassed many experts who had just broken through to the battle ancestor realm. To have such battle strength was enough to show that Xiao Qin was very talented. Xiao Qin did not reply. He did not go easy on her, but the beautiful girl did not seem to be under much pressure. This made Xiao Qin's mood even heavier. This could only mean one thing. The beautiful girl was stronger than him. Little brother, it's not easy to cultivate to the battle ancestor realm. Why don't you submit to me? Don't worry, I won't treat you badly. The beautiful woman was still trying to persuade Xiao Qin to surrender as the battle raged on. After all, Xiao Qin was not weak at all, and it would be a waste to just kill him like that. It would be best if they could get him to surrender. The girl was called Zixian. She kept persuading Xiao Qin as she fought fiercely. Don't waste your time. I'd rather die in battle than surrender. You have a backbone. However, just having a backbone is useless in this world. You also need to have strength. When Big Sister captures you, you will have no choice but to surrender. As she spoke, Zixian's aura suddenly surged. Unlike Xiao Qin, Zixian was a veteran war ancestor realm powerhouse. Her strength was considered to be at the top of the war ancestor realm. Her aura skyrocketed, and many purple lotuses bloomed around Zixian. For a time, the sky was dyed with a myriad of colors, and under the encirclement of the numerous purple-colored lotuses, Zixian was like a fairy from the 9 heavens, charming and enchanting. Little brother, Big Sister can't bear to hurt you, so I'll take you back one last time. Do you want to surrender? Noisy. Hearing that, Xiao Qin immediately slashed out with his sword. The tip of his sword streaked through the air and headed straight for Zixian. As if she had already guessed that Xiao Qin would do this, Zixian was not surprised at all. She casually raised her hand and a purple-colored lotus appeared in front of her. The sword ray fiercely bombarded the purple-colored lotus, and the two collided with a loud bang. Then, the purple-colored lotus was shattered, turning into petals that scattered down, and Xiao Chen's sword ray was completely neutralized. You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Then, I wish you good luck, little brother. Xiao Chen had no intention of surrendering at all. As soon as Zi Xian finished speaking, she formed a seal with her hands, and the purple lotuses around her began to spin wildly. Streaks of purple light streaked across the sky, and wherever the purple light passed, the space collapsed inch by inch. Xiao Chen was not too shocked by the purple light. Although the purple light was strong, it was not enough to pose any threat to him. However, he could not be careless. Zi Xian's means were definitely not limited to this. Kill. She spoke softly, and then the countless purple-colored lotuses instantly exploded, turning into balls of petals that instantly enveloped Xiao Chen. The surrounding was filled with petals, and he could not see the situation outside at all. Moreover, Xiao Chen could clearly feel that his spiritual energy was constantly being suppressed. It was as if it had formed a world of its own, and this power was somewhat similar to the sword realm. Is this the power of a world? It had the shadow of the power of a world, but it was not completely the power of a world. There was still a clear difference between the two. Just as Xiao Chen was secretly on guard, the surrounding petals suddenly rushed toward Xiao Chen. The countless petals were like countless sharp blades, and Lu Yu could feel an extremely cold aura on these petals. If he guessed correctly, these petals should be highly poisonous. As long as he was scratched even a little, it would probably worsen quickly. Although Xiao Chen had the cultivation of the War Ancestor realm, he could be said to be immune to all poisons. Ordinary poisons could not hurt him at all. Even if it was a real poison, it would not be able to take his life. However, Xiao Chen was still cautious. Who knew what the poison on the petals was? Even if it could not take his life, it would not be a good thing if it made his movements slow down. Therefore, if there was no need, Xiao Chen would definitely not take the risk. He directly used the sword realm, firmly enveloping himself within it, and fought against the sea of flowers. The power of the two worlds appeared and collided in the air. The sea of flowers and the sword chi collided crazily, and the sound of collision was constantly heard. Outside the sea of flowers, Zi Xian revealed a faint smile as she looked at Xiao Chen, who was already enveloped by it. Sword realm? You're quite smart. Knowing that Xiao Chen used the sword realm to block her attack and did not face it head-on, Zi Xian smiled slightly. If Xiao Chen had chosen to face it head-on just now, then he would have already lost. Because those petals were indeed highly poisonous. Although it was unknown, even if a War Ancestor realm powerhouse was infected, they would be instantly paralyzed. Perhaps it was only for a short period of time, but in a battle at the War Ancestor realm, there was no need to say what the result of being paralyzed would be. It was definitely enough to determine the outcome. Therefore, Xiao Chen chose to use the sword realm to fight against her sea of flowers. This was the wisest choice. However, even if he broke the sea of flowers, it would not change anything. He would still lose. Moreover, the stronger Xiao Chen was, the more Zi Xian liked him. She must think of a way to rope such a person in. This would definitely be beneficial to her. Slowly raising his hands, the sea of flowers that filled the sky quickly formed a tornado. Under the attack of the tornado, Xiao Chen found that his sword realm was beginning to show signs of breaking. The sea of flowers changed its form, and its attacking power became even stronger. Right now, even the sword realm was somewhat unable to withstand it. Not only were there petals all around, there were also gales of wind. Moreover, these storms were mixed with Zi Xian's spiritual energy. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. Chapter 3089. Zi Xian's attack was indeed not to be underestimated. At least now, Xiao Chen was being suppressed miserably, and even the sword realm could not hold on any longer. However, in the face of such a situation, Xiao Chen's gaze was extremely calm. After fighting with Zixian, Xiao Chen knew that her strength was slightly above his. After all, he had just broken through to the War Ancestor realm, while Zixian had been immersed in the War Ancestor realm for many years. In terms of foundation, Xiao Chen and Zixian could not compare at all. However, this did not mean that Xiao Chen had no chance of winning. Up until now, Xiao Chen had been waiting for an opportunity to severely injure Zixian in one fell swoop. Perhaps from the looks of it, he was about to lose, and Zixian was also full of confidence. And what Xiao Chen wanted was for Zixian to relax and be careless, so that he would have a chance. Looking at Xiao Chen, who was struggling in the sea of flowers, Zixian's mouth curled into a smile. Just as Xiao Chen had thought, Zixian was indeed full of confidence in the current situation. She did not think that Xiao Chen would be her opponent at all. So what if Xiao Chen had the cultivation of the War Ancestor realm now? He was still not her opponent. As long as she captured Xiao Chen, then the realm of myriad stars would be easy. Thinking of this, Zixian once again strengthened her attack, wanting to take down Xiao Chen in one fell swoop and lock in the victory. For this reason, Zixian even completely gave up her defense. After all, anyone could see that Xiao Chen did not have any strength to fight back at all. Therefore, it was understandable that Zixian gave up her defense and used all her energy on attacking. And Xiao Chen, who was in the sea of flowers and had been paying attention to Zixian, saw this scene. A smile flashed across his eyes. He had been waiting for this moment. She was sure that he did not have the ability to fight back, so she directly gave up her defense and wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Xiao Chen had guessed Zixian's reaction. Without hesitation, Xiao Chen, who originally seemed to be unable to hold on, suddenly took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. In the next second, he appeared in front of Zixian. Seeing Xiao Chen's actions, Zixuan was stunned. Although she quickly regained her senses, this momentary absent-mindedness gave Xiao Chen an opportunity. Crossing through space was nothing to the War Ancestor realm, but what Zixian did not expect was how Xiao Chen could pass through her sea of flowers. It must be known that the entire space was confined by Zixian. How did Xiao Chen manage to come out unscathed? In fact, it seemed as if he didn't face any obstruction at all, and directly appeared in front of him. It was hard to imagine, but Zixian, who had been through hundreds of battles, quickly reacted. From the very beginning, Xiao Chen could have broken his attack. The only reason he didn't do so was to make him careless and relaxed. He deliberately pretended to be weak so that he would think that Xiao Chen was no match for him. From the beginning to the end, he had been tricked by Xiao Chen. His face sank, but there was no time for Zixuan to think about this now. Xiao Chen, who had already appeared in front of her in a flash, did not hesitate at all and directly slashed out with his sword. Heavenly Emperor Slash. This was an attack that Xiao Chen created after breaking through to the War Ancestor realm. It was created on the basis of the original Emperor Sword, and its power was several times stronger than the Emperor Sword. It was currently Xiao Chen's strongest attack. In front of Zixian, Xiao Chen did not hold back at all, and used his strongest sword attack. Knowing that there was only one chance, if he could not completely injure Zixian this time, it would be very difficult for him to have such a good opportunity again. Naturally, Xiao Chen would not choose to miss it. The sword slashed across, and it seemed as if there was no terrifying pressure at all, as if it was just a casual sword attack. But the more it was like this, the more Zixian's heart beat, and an extreme sense of danger instantly enveloped her entire body. Intuition kept telling Zixian that Xiao Chen's sword attack was very strong, so strong that it was a bit ridiculous. She couldn't take it head-on, or she would be seriously injured. But it was a pity that at such a close distance, and she wasn't prepared at all, it was impossible for her to dodge it now. She tried her best to defend herself, But when Xiao Chen's sword attack struck her, a terrifying explosion erupted. A terrifying power erupted in an instant as a black hole was sliced open in the space. It was as if the space was instantly torn apart by something. And Zixian, who was in the middle, undoubtedly took the brunt of this terrifying force head-on. Such a violent fluctuation of spiritual energy attracted the attention of many people. Among them, the middle-aged man who was fighting fiercely with Lin Yun also turned his gaze over. After witnessing Zixian being devoured by this terrifying force, even he couldn't believe it. The middle-aged man was shocked by this force. If he were in Zixian's shoes, perhaps he would also be seriously injured by this force. The situation was great just a moment ago, but in the blink of an eye, who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Everything changed too quickly, so quickly that no one was prepared for it at all. No matter how strong Zixian was, under such a terrifying attack, it was impossible for her to escape unscathed. And once Zixian was injured, what would happen next in an instant? The middle-aged man's heart sank a little. The battle situation seemed to be different from what he had imagined. The violent aftershock dissipated gradually. And after Xiao Chen launched this attack, his aura was also somewhat chaotic. After all, Xiao Chen came with the goal of severely injuring Zixian, so when he attacked, he didn't hold back at all and used almost all of his spiritual energy. And now, he needed some time to recover. He gazed calmly at where Zixian was. At that moment, the aftershock dissipated slowly and Zixian appeared before Lu Yu once again. He didn't manage to kill her directly. Of course, this was also within his expectations. At Zixian's level, it wasn't that easy to kill her. But looking at Zixian's current state, her left hand had disappeared entirely, and her right leg was also severed at the waist. She looked extremely miserable. It was apparent that the earlier attack had injured Zixian badly. Facing this, Xiao Chen didn't hesitate and charged forward with his sword again. "All right, it seems like I underestimated you." After suffering such a huge loss in Xiao Chen's hands, one could imagine how Zixian felt. She thought that victory was within her grasp, but who knew that she would be tricked by Xiao Chen from the beginning to the end? This made Zixian feel as though she had fallen from heaven to hell. The anger in her heart couldn't help but rise. But at that moment, after she was severely injured, facing Xiao Chen's relentless attacks, Zixian fell into a disadvantageous position in an instant. It couldn't be helped. Her injuries weren't light and she had less than 10% of her combat strength left. Now that she was in a fierce battle with Xiao Chen, this outcome was inevitable. And Xiao Chen was also smart. He didn't give Zixian any chance to catch her breath. Instead, he leaned forward and fought with her. Take her down while she's down. That was what Xiao Chen thought. Please collect, vote, recommend. Chapter 3090. Xiao Chen did not give Zixian any time to catch her breath. With one of her arms chopped off, Zixian could only try her best to resist Xiao Chen's attack. Looking at Xiao Chen's posture, it was obvious that he wanted to kill her directly. This feeling was not wrong. Although Xiao Chen believed that it was basically impossible to kill Zixian on the spot, given the current situation, if she insisted on fighting him to the death, he would have a chance. Then, Xiao Chen would have a chance. Even if he had to pay a price, Xiao Chen would still make a move. However, the probability of this happening should be very small because Zixian was not a fool. She knew that it was not suitable for her to fight to the death with Xiao Chen after falling into his trap and being severely injured. In fact, this was indeed the case. Facing Xiao Chen, who had the upper hand, Zixian had already thought of retreating. This time, it was not that she was weaker than him, but that she was too careless and fell into Xiao Chen's trap. Who would have thought that Xiao Chen would actually deliberately show weakness to the enemy and find an opportunity to give her a fatal blow? "Xiao Chen, I will remember you," Zixian said coldly as she looked at Xiao Chen with eyes full of anger. She could not remember how many years it had been since she had suffered such a big loss. Her consecutive victories had made Zixuan a little overconfident, which led to her capsizing this time. As soon as she finished speaking, without waiting for Xiao Chen to reply, Zixuan took the initiative to retreat. Then, her figure began to turn illusory. Seeing this, a trace of regret flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Just as he thought, this woman was very rational and did not choose to fight to the end. Now, since she wanted to leave, Xiao Chen did not think that he could stop her. However, since Zixuan had chosen to retreat, the following battle would be very easy. After all, there was no one on the side of the foreign races who could stop Xiao Chen now. Xiao Chen did not care about the leaving Zixuan at all. He turned around and charged towards the battlefield below. His target was the foreign race expert. If he could kill one more foreign race expert, he could reduce the pressure on the realm of infinite stars. Naturally, Xiao Chen would not let go of this opportunity. Retreat. At the same time, the middle-aged man who was fighting fiercely with Lin Yun had a clear grasp of the situation. He immediately gave the order to retreat. Hearing this, all of the foreign beings began to retreat in an orderly manner, and none of them were willing to continue the battle. Although Xiao Chen had killed many foreign race cultivators in the process of retreating, that was all. He had not been able to stop the foreign race from retreating. Soon, he retreated to the other side of the spatial fault. How about it? Do you want to chase? Little Qing came to Xiao Chen's side at this time. This was a good opportunity to pursue the victory. But in this regard, Xiao Chen shook his head. Although these foreign races retreated, they did not panic. Therefore, they did not lose too much of their combat strength. There was actually no point in chasing after them at this time, and it would be very difficult for them to gain much. Moreover, even though they had achieved a small victory in the realm of infinite stars, they had also suffered casualties. Little Qing didn't say anything when she saw this. It was obviously impossible to defeat the foreign races in a single battle. The battle between the two sides came to an end just like that. Judging from the results, the realm of infinite stars should have achieved a small victory. This was a great boost to the morale of the realm of infinite stars. After all, the facts proved that these foreign races were not undefeatable. Everyone's eyes were filled with the joy of victory. Only Xiao Chen and the others were still as calm as an ancient well. It was especially so for Xiao Chen. He knew very well that his victory this time was entirely due to his element of surprise. After this, it would be very difficult for him to have such an opportunity again in the future. Therefore, this victory was actually more of a lucky factor. It did not mean that the realm of infinite stars was stronger than the foreign races. After returning to the encampment, before Xiao Chen could catch his breath, Song Xing walked in with a terrible expression. "What's wrong?" "Xiao Lao is injured." Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and Xiao Luan had followed their father to battle this time. This was the first time the three of them had stepped onto a battlefield of such a scale. Originally, the three of them had the cultivation of a world lord, so Xiao Chen was not too worried. However, Xiao Lao was injured because he had arrived first. A look of worry flashed across his eyes. Is it serious? His life is not in danger, but he needs to rest for a while. Okay, I understand. Hearing this, Xiao Chen was slightly relieved. If anything happened to Xiao Lao, how was he going to explain it to Qin Shuru and the other girls? Since there was nothing else, Song Xing turned and left after saying that. He also had many things to deal with. After sending Song Xing off, Xiao Chen went directly to Xiao Lao's residence. Seeing Xiao Chen coming, Xiao Yao and Xiao Luan, who were guarding the courtyard, hurriedly stood up and called out, "Father." Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded slightly. "How is Lao Er's injury?" "It's not a big deal. He just needs to cultivate for a few days." There was no problem, but Xiao Chen was still worried about Xiao Lao's injury. After personally checking on his injury, he came to the courtyard again. Tell me, how did you get injured? It was not a problem to get injured on the battlefield, but Xiao Lao was different. For their safety, Xiao Chen had given them many life-saving treasures. Even if they were attacked by ancient creatures, they had life-saving treasures. At least, they had no problem retreating calmly. However, Xiao Lao was injured in the first battle. Although it was not fatal, his injury was not light. Facing his father's question, Xiao Yao had no choice but to tell him the truth. Originally, according to Xiao Chen's instructions, the three of them stayed with the main group. The foreign races that they fought were basically world lords. At first, there was nothing different. With the combat power of the three of them, they could be said to be invincible in the same realm. It was scary but not dangerous. However, later on, there was also a young man among the foreign races who had his eyes on Xiao Lao. This foreign race was very strange. His cultivation was the same as Xiao Lao's, but his combat power was extremely strong. Moreover, he had many treasures on him. Facing such an opponent who was of similar age and strength, with Xiao Lao's personality, he naturally would not back down. On the contrary, he was excited. Therefore, Xiao Lao took the initiative to ask for a battle. Just like that, the two of them fought fiercely. In the fierce battle, Xiao Lao did not fall into a disadvantage. However, the young man suddenly took out a treasure. Xiao Lao was careless and did not have time to react. Just like that, he was injured. If Xiao Yao and Xiao Luan did not save Xiao Lao in time, things would not have been so simple. A young man who was able to defeat Xiao Lao's treasure. Hearing Xiao Yao's words, Xiao Chen's expression did not change. However, in his heart, he was thinking. Xiao Lao's personality was very straightforward. If he met an opponent and wanted to fight, it would not be a problem. Unfortunately, with such a personality, it was easy for him to be at a disadvantage. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. Chapter 3091. After understanding what had happened, Xiao Chen knew that Xiao Lao had underestimated his opponent this time. This kid was just like that. He didn't care about any danger at all, and did things according to his own personality. Xiao Chen felt that the person who had injured him wasn't a simple person either. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so many treasures on him and could even suppress Xiao Lao. Although Xiao Chen didn't know much about the strange races, he knew that the ordinary warriors of the strange races were similar to those in the realm of infinite stars. It was impossible for each of them to have so many life-saving treasures on them. He didn't even know the strength of the other party, and dared to fight with his life. This was Xiao Lao's temper. Xiao Chen could only sigh helplessly. Xiao Yao and Xiao Lao. These two brothers had very different personalities since they were young. Now that they had grown up, they hadn't changed at all. After personally checking on Xiao Lao's condition, Xiao Chen instructed. Take good care of Lao. Let me know if there's anything. There were many things to do and now wasn't the time to relax. Xiao Chen naturally couldn't stay at Xiao Lao's place all the time. Hearing this, Xiao Yao and Xiao Luan nodded obediently. After leaving Xiao Lao's place, they returned to the main hall. When Xiao Chen arrived, Lin Yun, Mo He, and the others were already waiting for him. Xiao Chen definitely played a huge role in repelling the strange races. If Xiao Chen hadn't injured Zixian, the strange races wouldn't have retreated so quickly. How is it? Is Xiao Luan all right? He's fine. He'll be fine after resting for a few days. That's good. The moment they entered, everyone was still concerned about Xiao Lao's injuries. After all, Xiao Lao was Xiao Chen's son. Xiao Chen, the strange races have retreated. However, I'm afraid that the most important thing will happen next. Everyone knew that the outsiders had not yet been defeated, and the war had only just begun. Xiao Chen agreed with this. Therefore, even after the victory, no one dared to be careless. However, during the discussion, someone spoke. Do you think it's possible to talk to the aliens? So far, we still don't know what their purpose is. Everyone present had personally experienced the strength of the foreign races. They were very strong, especially the middle-aged man and Zixian. The strength of these two people faintly surpassed Lin Yun and Xiao Chun. In the face of such a powerful enemy, everyone naturally knew that if they continued to fight recklessly, the casualties would definitely be disastrous. Most importantly, until now they still did not know why these foreign races had invaded the domain of infinite stars. If they could talk it over and figure out the reason, they might be able to avoid a huge battle. Of course, this was not a surrender. Because from the very beginning, everyone had discussed that it was definitely impossible to surrender. Hearing this, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and Xiao Qing all fell silent. Negotiation? It was not impossible, but would the outsiders be willing to accept it? I think it's possible. If we can really talk it over, perhaps we might be able to resolve it peacefully. Moreover, the spatial fault has shattered, which means that the domain of infinite stars is no longer protected and will have to face contact with the outside world at any time. Our understanding of the outside world is indeed too little. This time, it was the outsiders, but who would it be next time? Moreover, they knew nothing about the world outside the domain of infinite stars. So if they could make peace with the outsiders, on one hand they could resolve the problem of the war, and on the other hand, they could understand the outside world through the outsiders. As for why they did not choose to negotiate from the beginning, it was because the timing was not right. After all, the prerequisite for negotiation was that both sides were equal in strength. If they were not equal in strength, why would they negotiate with you? They could directly beat you into submission. Moreover, after this battle, the domain of infinite stars had displayed its strength and even won by a small margin. Thus, there was a possibility of negotiation. Xiao Chen did not refuse. If it was possible, they would naturally give it a try. This was not a problem. We'll see when the time comes. If the outsiders have any ideas, we can give it a try. Now, no one could say for sure what the outsiders' attitude would be. Regarding this, no one said much. Xiao Chen and the others were discussing the follow-up. On the other side, in Zixian's palace, Zixian, who had been severely injured by Xiao Chen. She used a few days to stabilize her injuries, and her severed arm had also recovered. Something like regrowing a severed limb was not a difficult thing for a powerhouse at Zixian's level. However, it would still take some time for her injuries to heal completely. On this day, Zixian and the middle-aged man were sitting in the courtyard. The middle-aged man looked at Zixian with a smile. "How are your injuries?" "Humph, despicable guy. I will definitely not let him go next time." Speaking of Xiao Chen, Zixian's eyes were filled with anger. In her opinion, Xiao Chen had used a sneak attack. He was able to win because she was careless. If it was a real battle, she would not have lost at all. After fighting for so many years, when had she ever suffered such a great loss? This was only the first battle, and she was already severely injured by Xiao Chen. This caused Zixian to feel extremely displeased. Facing that, the middle-aged man smiled and said, "Isn't it because you were careless? However, that Xiao Chen is quite smart. I reckon that he had thought of a countermeasure from the very beginning." "Humph, I will not give him another chance like this." Hearing that, Zixian snorted coldly. Thinking of that, Zixian was so furious that her teeth itched. To the arrogant Zixian, suffering such a great loss was indeed difficult for her to accept. The middle-aged man was able to understand. However, he did not come here to talk about this matter. Looking at the furious Zixian, the middle-aged man said, "All right. That Xiao Chen and the others have sent someone over. They want to have a talk with us." "Have a talk? You want to surrender?" I won't agree to that." Zixian simply would not give them a chance to negotiate. However, facing that, the middle-aged man shook his head and smiled bitterly. "You're thinking too much. It's not surrender, it's peace talks. Peace talks? You're thinking too much. This king will definitely take over the entire Myriad Star domain. How could Zixuan agree to a peace talk now? After launching a sneak attack on her, he wants to have a peace talk? That's simply a fool's dream. Alright, it's fine to have a talk. Don't forget His Majesty's instructions. Moreover, the Sky Dragon Galaxy in the north has been restless. That's what we need to pay attention to the most. Compared to the Myriad Star domain, the Sky Dragon Galaxy was their greatest enemy. They could not be careless. So, since Xiao Chun and the others wanted to have a talk, the middle-aged man felt that it was not impossible. Hearing that, especially when she heard the word Sky Dragon Galaxy, Zixuan's expression became serious. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. End of chapter. Chapter 3092. The Sky Dragon Galaxy was definitely a great enemy in Zixuan's heart. A small place like the Land of Myriad Stars couldn't be compared to the Sky Dragon Galaxy at all. The reason why Zixuan and the others attacked the Land of Myriad Stars was to unify the Fire Phoenix Galaxy as soon as possible. What Xiao Chun and the others didn't know was that the Land of Myriad Stars was really in the Fire Phoenix Galaxy. There were many worlds in a world, and similarly, there were many worlds in a galaxy, and the Land of Myriad Stars was one of them. Compared to the other worlds in the Fire Phoenix Galaxy, the Land of Myriad Stars wasn't big at all, and it wasn't strong either. According to the previous prediction, it was already very good to have a Divine Ancestor Realm powerhouse overseeing the Land of Myriad Stars. Therefore, after Xiao Chun and Lin Yun broke through to the Combat Ancestor Realm, Zixuan and the middle-aged man were so surprised. After all, it was almost impossible for a Combat Ancestor Realm powerhouse to appear in a small place like the Land of Myriad Stars. Compared to the Sky Dragon Galaxy, the Land of Myriad Stars was really nothing. Xiao Chun and the others had already taken the initiative to express their willingness to talk, and the middle-aged man and Zixuan didn't refuse. 3 days later, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, Little Qing, the middle-aged man, and Zixuan agreed to meet at the center of the two sides' encampments and began the first discussion. There were no extra people, only the 5 of them. At this moment, in the starry sky, a simple short table and 5 prayer mats were just floating there. The surrounding space had long been sealed, so it was impossible for anyone to hear their conversation. Xiao Chun and the other 2 appeared first and sat on the prayer mat. Then, just a dozen breaths later, the middle-aged man and Zixuan also appeared. The 5 of them sat facing each other, but Zixuan's expression when looking at Xiao Chun was clearly still filled with anger. Humph! Zixuan coldly rolled her eyes at Xiao Chun and snorted coldly. Obviously, she was still brooding about what happened before. It couldn't be helped. With Zixuan's arrogant personality, it would be strange if she wasn't angry after suffering such a big loss at the hands of Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun smiled helplessly when facing this, and he didn't say anything. Both sides were enemies on the battlefield, so it was naturally impossible to hold back. It was even to the extent that if he had the chance, Xiao Chun would have killed Zixuan a long time ago, let alone sit together and discuss things like this. Alright, since it's a discussion, let's put aside the previous matter for now. Xiao Chun, my name is Qing Lin. Since you guys want to talk, why don't you guys start first? Qing Lin was the first to speak. Hearing that, Xiao Chun did not reject and said bluntly, "Since it's a peace talk, there must be a bottom line. First, it's impossible to surrender. If we can't even reach a consensus on this point, then there's no need to talk anymore." Surrendering was Xiao Chun's bottom line. This was something that could not be changed in the slightest. Therefore, they had to confirm this point first before continuing the negotiation. Qing Lin and Zixuan weren't surprised at all because they'd already guessed it before they met. Qing Lin said with a smile, "Xiao Chun, Do you know what the outside world is like? Do you know how strong we are? In your opinion, Zixian and I are already the strongest people here. However, in terms of strength, the two of us aren't the strongest in the Fire Phoenix galaxy. There are even stronger people above us. I admit that the strength of your domain of myriad stars is indeed a little unexpected. Perhaps you can resist Zixian and me, but what about after that? Can you resist the stronger people of the Fire Phoenix galaxy? Or an existence that surpasses the Battle Ancestor realm? The moment Qing Lin opened her mouth, she made a show of strength. This was not to scare Xiao Chun and the others, but to state a fact. With the strength of the domain of myriad stars, it was absolutely impossible to resist the Fire Phoenix galaxy. After all, there was no comparison between a world and a galaxy. To be honest, it wasn't too difficult for the Fire Phoenix galaxy to destroy the domain of myriad stars. Hearing Qing Lin's words, Xiao Chen's expression didn't change much, nor was he frightened by his words. Seeing that Xiao Chen was still as calm as an ancient well, Qing Lin secretly raised her opinion of him. This guy was indeed extraordinary. Even in the Fire Phoenix galaxy, he would be a rare talent. Can you tell us about the outside world? Xiao Chun and the others only understood half of what Qing Lin said because Xiao Chun and the others didn't know anything about the Fire Phoenix galaxy. Since they didn't know, they naturally couldn't understand the meaning of Qing Lin's words. Qing Lin didn't hide this and explained it to Xiao Chen and the others. It wasn't a secret anyway. After hearing Qing Lin's words, Xiao Chen and the others had a strange look in their eyes. So there were galaxies outside the world? Every galaxy contained countless worlds, and the domain of myriad stars was just one of them. In this way, the domain of myriad stars was indeed no match for the Fire Phoenix galaxy. Xiao Chun and the others didn't doubt this at all. Just like the Great Thousand World back then, could it be an enemy of the entire domain of myriad stars? It was obviously impossible. After taking a deep breath, Xiao Chun said, I see. However, I'll still say the same thing. The domain of myriad stars won't surrender. Xiao Chun didn't know what the result of surrendering would be, but this was a bottom line that was non-negotiable. In response, Qing Lin smiled and said, It's not impossible, but under the circumstances of not surrendering, the domain of myriad stars must admit that it's a member of the Fire Phoenix galaxy and obey the galaxy's orders. At this point, Qing Lin paused for a moment and then added, There are some things that I can't tell you for the time being, but Xiao Chen, you should understand that the domain of myriad stars is a part of the Fire Phoenix galaxy in all aspects. This is undeniable. Therefore, in the end, the living beings of the domain of myriad stars are also living beings of the Fire Phoenix galaxy. Therefore, there's no doubt about obeying the galaxy's orders, and this is also our bottom line. Of course, if you can agree to this, we can reserve the position of the domain of myriad stars and let the people of the domain of myriad stars manage the domain of myriad stars. This is already the biggest concession. They wouldn't let outsiders manage the domain of myriad stars and would still maintain everything in the domain of myriad stars. The only thing they had to do was to obey the galaxy's orders. However, as soon as Qing Lin finished speaking, Zixian, who was at the side, spoke up. No, that's not enough. Xiao Chun has to follow us to the galaxy and serve the galaxy. As she said that, she glanced at Xiao Chen with a smug expression, as if saying, How is it? I said you can't escape from me, right? Serve the galaxy? Hearing this, Xiao Chen frowned slightly. It wasn't that he was conflicted, but he thought of his family. If he went to the galaxy, what would happen to his family? Please add, vote, recommend. The error-free chapters of Sword Master 8 Desolation will continue to be updated in the bar. There are no advertisements on the website. Please add and recommend the bar. If you like Sword Master 8 Desolation, please add. Sword Master 8 Desolation bar updates the fastest. Chapter 3093. After learning that there was a galaxy outside the heavens and earth. The Fire Phoenix Galaxy was so vast. To be honest, Xiao Chen was very interested in the outside world. In the land of infinite stars, Xiao Chen was already considered the strongest existence, but in the entire Fire Phoenix Galaxy, he was nothing. According to Qing Lin and Zixian, although there weren't many combat ancestor realm experts in the Fire Phoenix Galaxy, there were still quite a few. However, Xiao Chen still couldn't make up his mind to leave the land of infinite stars and head to the Fire Phoenix Galaxy. After all, Xiao Chen was no longer alone. He had to think about his family before doing anything. Seeing Xiao Chen's silent appearance, Qing Lin and Zixian didn't urge him. They just waited quietly at the side. Similarly, Lin Yun and Little Qing also fell into silence. It was obvious that they were weighing the words of Qing Lin and Zixian. If what Qing Lin said just now was true, then it was not impossible to accept. After all, the land of infinite stars belonged to the Fire Phoenix Galaxy. Moreover, Qing Lin had promised that the people of the land of infinite stars could manage it themselves. Normally, the Fire Phoenix Galaxy wouldn't interfere with the internal affairs of the land of infinite stars. It was only when needed that the land of infinite stars had to listen to the orders of the galaxy. In the Fire Phoenix Galaxy, many worlds were like this. After a moment of silence, Xiao Chen finally looked up at Qing Lin and Zixian. "Give me some time to think about it." There was no way to give an answer for the time being. Xiao Chen indeed needed some time. Qing Lin wasn't surprised and smiled. "Sure, send someone to inform me when you've thought it through. In addition, even if you go to the galaxy, you can actually bring your family along. Although the combat ancestor realm isn't the strongest in the galaxy, you don't have to worry about the treatment. Bring your family along, and they can also get better cultivation resources. Moreover, you can hold a position in the upper echelons of the galaxy. It's actually a kind of protection for the land of infinite stars. Therefore, you have no reason to refuse." Qing Lin explained the benefits of going to the galaxy to Xiao Chen. These words were not false. Even if a War Ancestor Realm powerhouse was not the strongest in the entire Fire Phoenix Galaxy, he could definitely be considered a powerhouse. Therefore, for the War Ancestor Realm, the treatment given by the galaxy was actually very good. At least, it was much better than staying in the domain of myriad stars. Qing Lin thought so. As for family, there was no need to worry. Qing Lin also had family. Moreover, like Xiao Chen, he had joined the star system from another battle of Earths. Now in the galaxy, Qing Lin was different. She was living a good life. Moreover, she was treated with envy. According to what Qing Lin said, Xiao Chen had no reason to reject it because it was the most suitable choice no matter how one looked at it. Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded. "Yes." After casually replying, the few of them ended their conversation. Although there was no result for the time being, it wasn't too bad. At least the relationship between the two sides had eased a little. Now, it was up to Xiao Chen and Lin Yun whether they agreed or not. The two of them were War Ancestor Realm powerhouses. Qing Lin and Zixian both hoped that they could go to the star system. As for Mo He, Dongfang Yun and the others, although Qing Lin didn't say anything, it was obvious that she didn't value them. Mo He and the others' cultivation was only at the Saint Ancestor Realm. There was no way they could compare with Xiao Chen and Lin Yun. Even if they went to the star system, they could only be Xiao Chen's subordinate. After returning to the station, Mo He, Dongfang Yun and the others were already waiting. Everyone gathered in the main hall. Xiao Chen told everyone about the content of the negotiation. There was nothing worth hiding. Anyway, they would know sooner or later. Moreover, it wasn't a bad thing. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mo He and the others fell into silence. To be honest, what Qing Lin said was indeed tempting. After all, the conditions were good. There was no harm to the domain of myriad stars. The only problem now was whether Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were willing to agree or not. Of course, this was their private matter. The others couldn't make the decision for them. After some discussion, the final decision fell on Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. If the two of them agreed with Qing Lin, then the domain of myriad stars was not unacceptable. Xiao Chun and Lin Yun still didn't give an answer on the spot. After dispersing, Lin Yun took the initiative to look for Xiao Chun and said with a bitter smile, "Brother Xiao Chun, what do you think? What do you think? What about you?" Hearing this, Xiao Chun didn't answer but asked instead. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other and then smiled. In fact, they already had an answer in their hearts. From what Qing Lin said, joining the star system was definitely beneficial. Moreover, even from the perspective of the domain of myriad stars, it was necessary for the two of them to join the star system. After all, if they could occupy a place in the star system, they would have more authority to speak. At that time, they would be able to seek better benefits for the domain of myriad stars. As for continuing to fight against the star system, it obviously wasn't a wise choice now. Firstly, it was because there was no irreconcilable enmity between the two sides. Secondly, the domain of myriad stars was definitely not a match for the entire Fire Phoenix star system. Continuing to fight would only increase the number of casualties. Agree to Qing Lin's request. However, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun didn't plan to bring their families along. They would go and see the situation first. If it was really as Qing Lin said, it was fine to bring their families over. Without saying too much, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun both made their choice. Soon, 3 days passed. Qing Lin also received a reply from Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Hearing that the two of them agreed to go to the star system, Qing Lin smiled slightly. "See, I told you they would definitely agree." Hearing this, Zixian curled her lips and said, "Nonsense, they're not idiot. Why wouldn't they agree? All right, you'd better tell His Majesty about this as soon as possible. The matter of the domain of myriad stars has dragged on for too long. This time we obtained 2 battle ancestor realm powerhouses. His Majesty will definitely be happy." Hearing this, Qing Lin smiled and said, "Although they spent a lot of time in the domain of myriad stars, there were unexpected gains. Qing Lin had also done a great service this time. Moreover, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun were still very young in the battle ancestor realm. It could be said that they had great potential. They might have a chance to break through to a higher level in the future. Once the two of them crossed the battle ancestor realm, they would definitely be high-level existences even in the entire Fire Phoenix star system." Thinking about this, Qing Lin couldn't help but smile. If that was the case, as the referral, Qing Lin would definitely benefit a lot. Taking out a token, a white-haired old man with a youthful face soon appeared in front of Qing Lin and Zixian. Seeing the old man's shadow, Qing Lin and Zixian bowed respectfully. "Greetings, East Sovereign. Seeking collection, seeking monthly votes, seeking recommendation." Chapter 3094. Greetings, Dong Huang. Qing Lin and Zixian bowed respectfully, while the old man nodded faintly. "How's the matter with the land of 10,000 stars?" Dong Huang was Qing Lin and Zixian's immediate superior, but he was still not the strongest in the Fire Phoenix galaxy. In the entire Fire Phoenix galaxy, the strongest person was the Star Lord, followed by the 8 great emperors like Dong Huang, and then the War Ancestor realm powerhouses like Qing Lin and Zixian. In the entire Fire Phoenix galaxy, the number of War Ancestor realm powerhouses should be around a few dozen, less than 100. It sounded like a lot, but combined with the huge population of a galaxy, it could only be described as rare. Thinking about the Fire Phoenix galaxy, there were hundreds of billions of living beings, but there were only a few dozen War Ancestor realm powerhouses. Facing Dong Huang's question, Qing Lin immediately said, "Reporting to Dong Huang, the matter of the land of 10,000 stars has basically been finalized, But there are some unexpected surprises. Upon hearing this, Dong Huang replied with interest. Seeing this, Qing Lin continued. There are 2 war ancestor realm powerhouses in the land of 10,000 stars. We have already discussed with them, and they are willing to join the Faith Galaxy. A small land of 10,000 stars actually had 2 war ancestor realm powerhouses. Hearing this, Dong Huang's eyes flashed with surprise. The land of 10,000 stars was located in the east of the Fire Phoenix Galaxy, and this area was Dong Huang's territory. Right now, there were only 9 war ancestor realm powerhouses in Dong Huang's hands. Among the emperors, Dong Huang's strength could only be considered the bottom. But there was no other way. The east of the Fire Phoenix Galaxy was not strong, and there was no way it could be compared to the other regions. Right now, there were 2 war ancestor realm powerhouses in the land of 10,000 stars. To Dong Huang, it was naturally good news. If he could get the help of Shao Chun and Lin Yun, Dong Huang's strength would obviously rise to another level. When the time came, he would have more confidence when facing the other emperors. Nodding in satisfaction, Dong Huang revealed a rare smile. That's right, as long as it doesn't touch the bottom line, any conditions can be negotiated. Try your best to bring these 2 back. When Dong Huang said that, Qing Lin and Zi Xian hurriedly cupped their hands and bowed. It could be seen that Dong Huang valued Shao Chun and Lin Yun very much. If that was the case, things would be easier to handle. 3 days later, Shao Chun and Lin Yun found Qing Lin and Zi Xian again. This time, both of them expressed that they could head to the galaxy. Qing Lin naturally had to return the favor. On top of the original foundation, he also admitted that everything in the field of 10,000 stars could be handled by the field of 10,000 stars and the galaxy would not interfere. Other than that, the galaxy wouldn't send anyone to the field of infinite stars. Shao Chun and Lin Yun were naturally very satisfied with this concession. It could be said that with this promise, there would basically be no changes to the realm of infinite stars. Both sides quickly reached a consensus. However, before they left, Shao Chun and Lin Yun had to return to the land of all living beings to deal with some matters. He entered the myriad star domain with Qing Lin and Zi Xian. Since everyone could be considered companions now, there was naturally no problem for Qing Lin and Zi Xian to enter the realm of infinite stars. Moreover, in order to show their sincerity, Qing Lin and Zi Xian didn't bring anyone with them. The 4 of them ran all the way to the land of all living beings. Along the way, Qing Lin and Zi Xian carefully observed the realm of infinite stars. There was nothing special about it and the area wasn't too big. However, such an ordinary place gave birth to 2 combat ancestor realm powerhouses, Shao Chun and Lin Yun. Brother Shao Chun, to be honest, if the realm of infinite stars is placed in the galaxy, it can only be considered ordinary. Logically speaking, it's impossible for such an ordinary place to give birth to a combat ancestor realm powerhouse. Brother Qing Lin, do you mean that there are strong and weak realms in the realm of infinite stars? Of course. The galaxy divides the realms into 3 levels based on various factors. Level 1 is the highest and level 3 is the lowest. The realm of infinite stars is only equivalent to the lowest level 3 realm. Only the weakest? Hearing this, Shao Chun felt a little helpless. It turned out that the place he lived in could only be considered the weakest realm in the galaxy. From the size of the area, the density of the spirit energy, the perfection of the laws, and other aspects, the galaxy had a complete set of standards to evaluate it. Of course, the higher the level of the realm, the more attention it would receive from the galaxy. To be honest, the galaxy wouldn't pay much attention to a level 3 realm like the realm of infinite stars. If the realm of infinite stars wasn't in the Fire Phoenix Galaxy, Qing Lin and Zi Xian wouldn't have spent so much effort to break the spatial fault. This was because even if they conquered the realm of infinite stars, the galaxy wouldn't gain any benefit. They would even need to provide resources to support the realm of infinite stars. However, as the saying goes, the world is unpredictable. Who would have thought that two freaks, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, would appear in the realm of infinite stars? As they continued to go deeper into the realm of infinite stars, Qing Lin and Zi Xian slowly noticed something unusual. Their eyesight was indeed not weak. After some observation, Qing Lin asked directly, "Brother Xiao Chun, Brother Lin Yun, did the realm of infinite stars experience a great battle not long ago?" "Yes, a great battle that engulfed the entire realm of infinite stars." No wonder. At a glance, Xiao Chun could see that the realm of infinite stars was filled with traces left behind by the great battle. Is there a problem? Could it be that Qing Lin saw some hidden dangers? Qing Lin smiled and said to Xiao Chen's question, "Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. On the contrary, it's a good thing. Although this great battle caused quite a bit of damage to this realm of infinite stars, it didn't damage the root. Moreover, it was a blessing in disguise. Because of this great battle, the realm of infinite stars is transforming into a level 2 realm of infinite stars." Level 2 realm of infinite stars? That's right. As the saying goes, there can be no construction without destruction. Sometimes there will be such situations when a cultivator cultivate. Due to some destructive attacks, they will awaken stronger talent. This isn't impossible. It's the same for the realm of infinite stars. Xiao Chun had naturally heard of the saying, "There can be no construction without destruction." However, that was only true for cultivators. Now, could the realm of infinite stars be the same? This was the first time he had heard of such a saying. However, since it was a good thing, there was naturally no need to worry. Moreover, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun could also feel that the realm of infinite stars was indeed a little different as it slowly recovered. However, the realm of infinite stars is now at its weakest period. It can't suffer any more damage. Otherwise, not only will it not be able to complete the transformation, but it might even become a wasteland. Wasteland meant that it was completely unsuitable for any life to survive. If a realm of infinite stars became a wasteland, the realm of infinite stars' spirit energy would dissipate and the power of laws would gradually disappear. At that time, it would become a lifeless existence. There were such wastelands in the Fire Phoenix galaxy, but there weren't many of them. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3095. They chatted along the way and soon arrived at the land of all living beings. In the sacred palace, Xiao Chun and Lin Yun went home after settling Qing Lin and Zi Xian down. Since they were going to the galaxy, they naturally had to inform their families. As for Qing Lin and Zi Xian, they didn't stay in the sacred palace for long. It was their first time coming to the land of all living beings. They were curious and went out to explore. In the residence, Xiao Chun told Qin Shuru and the others about his trip to the galaxy. Qin Shuru and the others fell silent for a while. First, they were shocked by the vastness of the world. Second, they were shocked by Xiao Chen's departure. Even Xiao Chen himself had no idea when he would be able to come back after leaving this time. However, since the galaxy was so huge, Xiao Chen definitely wouldn't be able to come back in a short time. Moreover, Xiao Chen said himself that he didn't plan to bring Qin Shuru and the others with him to the galaxy. At least now wasn't the time. He didn't know the situation in the outside world. Xiao Chen planned to bring Qin Shuru and the others over after he settled everything. "Husband, do you have to go?" "I have no choice. I can't refuse this time." Although Qing Lin didn't mean to force him, Xiao Chen wasn't a fool. He knew that if he refused, the galaxy would definitely not give the land of all living beings such good treatment. Therefore, Xiao Chen had no right to refuse going to the galaxy. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Qin Shuru and the others fell silent. It hadn't been long and Xiao Chen was leaving again. It seemed that they were spending less and less time together. He was getting stronger and stronger, but many things were getting out of his control. People often say that if you want to control your own fate, you must have enough strength. However, how strong must you be? For example, Shao Chen was already a War Ancestor realm powerhouse. He was absolutely invincible in the realm of infinite stars. Even little Qing was not as strong as Shao Chen. But even so, Shao Chen didn't seem to have any choice in many things. He couldn't even stand on his own 2 feet. Shao Chen sighed when he saw the girls' dejected expressions. I'll go to the star system and settle down as soon as possible. When the time comes, I'll bring you all over. There was no way to refuse, so this was the only way. As long as it was confirmed that there was no danger, Shao Chen brought Qin Shuru and the other girls over. In response, the women nodded in agreement. Now that things had come to this was the only way. Of course, he couldn't forget about Shao Qin and Bai Ruiyue. To them, it didn't matter where they were. What mattered was where Shao Chen was. That was where they wanted to go. Several days passed in a row. Because the peace talks between the 2 sides were successful, the star system's army began to slowly retreat. Mu Lingxian, Mo He, Dongfang Yun, Ancestor He, and the others also returned to the land of living beings one after another. Before leaving, Shao Chen and Lin Yun naturally had some things to tell them. Since they were going to the star system, they could only leave the land of living beings to them. In the main hall, Mu Lingxian and the others looked at Shao Chen and Lin Yun with complicated expressions. Are you really leaving? Have you decided? Yes. In response, Shao Chen and Lin Yun both nodded in agreement. Fine, don't worry about the realm of infinite stars. Nothing will happen. Even if Shao Chen and Lin Yun left, the realm of infinite stars was still the world of the divine sanctum. No one could shake the divine sanctum's order in the realm of infinite stars. I want to go too. But at this moment Dongfang Yun spoke. She didn't want to stay in the realm of infinite stars. Instead, she wanted to go to the star system with Shao Chen and the others. In response, Lin Yun gave Shao Chen a strange look. Dongfang Yun's words were obviously directed at Shao Chen. In fact, everyone knew a little about the relationship between the two. Dongfang Yun was interested in Shao Chen, but unfortunately, Shao Chen didn't respond at all. He didn't have any intention of making it clear at all. Naturally, everyone turned a blind eye to it. But now, Dongfang Yun suddenly wanted to go with Shao Chen. This made everyone speechless and speechless. It seemed that Dongfang Yun still hadn't let it go. In response, Shao Chen looked at Dongfang Yun and said helplessly, "Why do you have to do this? I want to see the outside world. Can't I? Now that the spatial fault is gone, you can go to the outside world to train whenever you want." The star system only asked Shao Chen and Lin Yun to go. This didn't mean that Mu Lingxian and the others couldn't leave the realm of infinite stars. On the contrary, without the obstruction of the spatial fault, Mu Lingxian and the others could go to the star system to train whenever they wanted. This wasn't a problem at all. "I want to follow you. Why? Can't I?" However, Dongfang Yun obviously had an ulterior motive. Was she going to the star system? Anyone with a discerning eye could see that she was going for Shao Chen. Dongfang Yun kept insisting. Shao Chen originally refused, but who would have thought that this woman would go to Qin Shuru and the others? It was unknown what the women said, but in the end, Qin Shuru and the others actually asked Shao Chen to bring Dongfang Yun along. He was a little speechless, but there was nothing he could do. After arranging the matters of the Divine Temple, there was actually nothing much to arrange. In the end, Shao Chen brought Xianyuan Ling, Long Qing, Dongfang Yun, and Lin Yun along with Li Tian, Lin Yuan, Lin Hu, monk, Taoist, and the others on the road to the star system. There was nothing to worry about at the Divine Temple. According to Qing Lin, the current Fire Phoenix galaxy wasn't considered chaotic. It was basically a unified situation. The entire star system was overseen by the Star Lord, and it was divided into 8 regions. Each region was under the jurisdiction of a star emperor. The realm of infinite stars belonged to the eastern region, which was under the eastern sovereign. Qing Lin, Zixian, and the others were also kings under the eastern sovereign. Since the eastern sovereign had agreed to Xiao Chen's conditions, there was definitely no one who dared to have any ideas about the realm of infinite stars. However, with the disappearance of the spatial fault, people from other realms would definitely head to the realm of infinite stars to train. Different realms were connected, and this wasn't a bad thing for the realm of infinite stars. No matter what, the realm of infinite stars was still ruled by the divine temple, and this was approved by the Eastern sovereign. No one could oppose it. Even if something happened that the divine temple couldn't resolve, the Eastern sovereign could handle it. Hence, Xiao Chun and the others didn't need to worry. The most important thing to pay attention to now was Xiao Chun and Lin Yun's meeting with the Eastern sovereign. After all, the two of them would join the Eastern sovereign's camp, just like Qing Lin and Zixian. Qing Lin and Zixian didn't say much about the Eastern sovereign. Even when Xiao Chun asked, Zixian only smiled strangely. Well, you'll know when you see him. Simply put, he's a strange old man. Please add, vote, recommend. The error-free chapters of Sword Master 8 Desolation will continue to be updated in the hand fighting bar. There are no advertisements in the website. Please add and recommend the hand fighting bar. If you like Sword Master 8 Desolation, please add. Sword Master 8 Desolation hand fighting bar updates the fastest. Chapter 3096. They left the land of 10,000 stars. Because the entire Fire Phoenix galaxy was too large and the distance between the heavens and the earth was extremely far, there were countless spatial passageways in the Fire Phoenix galaxy. These spatial passageways were not temporary. Instead, they had always existed stably. The Star Lord and the rulers worked together to open them and used all kinds of treasures to ensure their normal operation. Even an ordinary person without any cultivation could use such a spatial passageway. Moreover, it would greatly increase one's speed. It was the first time Xiao Chun left the land of 10,000 stars. He did not walk far before he saw a small continent. There were no other buildings on this continent. There was only the entrance of a spatial passageway. Of course, there were also martial artists from the galaxy guarding it, but their cultivation bases were not high. This is the spatial passageway of the galaxy? This was the first time Xiao Chun had seen such a spatial passageway. Of course, he was not curious because he could easily do such a thing. The truly difficult part was to ensure the normal operation of this spatial passageway and spread throughout the entire Fire Phoenix galaxy. According to Qing Lin, such a spatial passageway could be seen almost anywhere in the Fire Phoenix galaxy. There was at least one such spatial passageway at the entrance of every world to ensure the connection between the heavens and the earth. As for the spatial passageway in front of them, it had just been opened not long ago and was specially built for the land of 10,000 stars. Xiao Chun did not say much about the galaxy's generosity. He could only say that it was rich and imposing. With the land of 10,000 stars foundation, they could only maintain 10 such spatial passageways at most. After all, they were like gold-swallowing behemoths. Every minute and second consumed a lot of resources. Let's go. With a chuckle, Qing Lin took the initiative to walk into the spatial passageway. Seeing this, Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others followed closely behind. Through this spatial passageway, their speed was indeed much faster and it was extremely convenient. They did not need to do anything and could directly reach their destination. Xiao Chun and the others had long been used to the feeling of traveling through space. A few days later, they arrived at Emperor Dong's palace where Emperor Dong was. This was the center of the entire Fire Phoenix star system's eastern region. Although it was called a palace, it was actually a huge continent. It was much bigger than the land of all living beings. Everyone who lived on this continent belonged to the Emperor Dong's palace. No one else had the right to live on this continent. Without a token, even a divine ancestor would be killed if they were to barge in recklessly. Under the lead of Qing Lin and Zixian, the group quickly entered the Emperor Dong's palace. From a great distance, Xiao Chun and the others could see that at the very center of the continent there was a towering palace towering between the heavens and the earth. He really didn't know how such a palace was built. Even the mountain peak in front of it was as small as a small mound. That would be Emperor Dong's palace. It's also where Lord Dongwang holds his meetings. Of course, it's usually empty. As they flew towards the huge palace, Qing Lin explained. Qing Lin had a helpless expression on her face when she mentioned Emperor Dong's palace. Clearly, Qing Lin did not know what to say about Dongwang. With their speed, they soon arrived at Emperor Dong's palace. It was completely different from the huge city they had imagined. Although there were many houses around Emperor Dong's palace, it was obviously not a city. First of all, there was no city wall. Second, the layout of the houses was very messy. There was no plan at all. It seemed to be randomly arranged. Some of the houses were connected together, forming a city without city walls. There were people coming and going, and it was very lively. However, some of the other houses were in groups of 3 to 5, and some were independent. It looked very messy. Why, it's different from what we imagined. Zixian asked with a smile, as if she had guessed Xiao Chen's thoughts. Xiao Chen did not hide it. Yes, it's a little different. These houses are the residence of the martial artists in Emperor Dong's palace. There are no rules about this. Anyone who joins Emperor Dong's palace can find a place to build their own residence. There are no restrictions on this. Moreover, after the houses are built, the array masters of Emperor Dong's palace will personally inscribe spirit arrays for free. You will know about this in the future. Let's go and meet Sir Donghuang first. He did not expect Emperor Dong's palace to have such a rule. However, Xiao Chun was very satisfied with it. There were not so many rules and regulations, and it was relatively relaxed. This was what Xiao Chun wanted to see. Of course, it was normal when he thought about it carefully. After all, no one who could join Emperor Dong's palace was weak. Emperor Dong's palace did not care about ordinary people. To put it bluntly, in the entire Emperor Dong's palace, the weakest person was an emperor. Moreover, in Emperor Dong's palace was generally a servant, an ordinary soldier. This was the confidence of Emperor Dong's palace. If they were in the realm of 10,000 stars, they would not even dare to think about having Emperor Dong's palace as servants. Along the way, Qing Lin and Zixian met many acquaintances. After greeting each other, many people looked at Xiao Chun, Lin Yun, and the others curiously. Obviously, everyone was very curious about these unfamiliar faces. Along the way to the bottom of the huge palace, they heard laughter coming from afar. Haha, has the matter of the realm of 10,000 stars been settled? Qing Lin. Following the voice, a burly man appeared in front of Qing Lin. With a hearty smile on his face, he hammered Qing Lin. In response, Qing Lin scolded him with a smile. You barbarian, didn't I tell you not to hit me when you see me? Haha, I forgot. You contacted Zixian for the matter of the realm of 10,000 stars, not me. The two exchanged a few words before Qing Lin turned around and introduced him. This is Lai Wan, the king of our Emperor Dong's palace. The burly man, Lai Wan, was the same as Qing Lin and Zixian. He was a war ancestor and had a high status in Emperor Dong's palace. Hearing Qing Lin's words, Lai Wan was very enthusiastic and took the initiative to greet Xiao Chun and Lin Yun. Haha, you two are from the realm of 10,000 stars, right? I didn't believe Qing Lin when she said that there were 2 war ancestor realm masters in the realm of 10,000 stars. But now, it seems that this little brat wasn't bragging. Everyone will be part of Emperor Dong's palace in the future. With your cultivation, you two will definitely be crowned as kings. When the time comes, let's drink together. Also, if you want to build a house, let me know. I can help. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. The spatial fault naturally couldn't stop an expert at Donghuang's level. To be honest, Donghuang had already toured the entire domain of 10,000 stars before they met. Qing Lin and Zixian were speechless. This old fellow was just so unreliable. Unexpectedly, Xiao Qin and Lin Yun were naturally conferred the title of king by Donghuang. As for Xian Yuanling, Long Qing, Li Tian, Lin Yuan and the others, they became the subordinates of Xiao Qin and Lin Yun respectively. This was the case in Emperor Dong's palace. Any king could have his own subordinate. Did your family come? After doing all this, Donghuang personally brewed tea and asked Xiao Qin with a smile. Donghuang seemed to know Xiao Qin like the back of his hand. He knew that Xiao Qin valued his family very much. Xiao Qin didn't hide this from him. Yes, they didn't come with me for the time being. Haha, then quickly build a house of your own and move over. My Emperor Dong's palace is pretty good and it's very safe. Don't worry. Since Xiao Qin had joined Emperor Dong's palace, his family could naturally live in Emperor Dong's palace. Xiao Qin nodded in agreement. With just a simple interaction, Xiao Qin felt a sense of belonging to Emperor Dong's palace. Whether it was the subordinates or Donghuang, Xiao Qin had a good impression of them. It seemed that joining Emperor Dong's palace wasn't a bad choice. After chatting for a while, everyone bid farewell to Donghuang. As they didn't have their own residence for the time being, Xiao Qin, Lin Yun and the others could only stay at Qing Lin's place for the time being. Qing Lin's residence wasn't far from the palace. There were courtyards around it, forming a small town. The people who lived here were all Qing Lin's subordinate. It could be said that this small town was Qing Lin's territory. Everyone obeyed Qing Lin's orders. There were all kinds of shops on the streets. Although it was small, it had everything. Along the way, many people bowed to Qing Lin respectfully. They also smiled and nodded to Xiao Qin, Lin Yun and the others. These shops were opened by my subordinates' family members. They lived together in Emperor Dong's palace. When they had nothing to do, they made these little things. Those who knew how to brew wine opened a restaurant, those who knew how to refine weapons opened a blacksmith shop, and those who knew how to refine elixirs opened a elixir pavilion. As they walked, Qing Lin introduced the place. In this place, Qing Lin and her subordinates did not need to spend any money to enjoy anything. After all, they were all friends. They made these things just for fun. No one took it seriously. Soon, they arrived at Qing Lin's residence. Unlike the land of infinite stars, Qing Lin's residence didn't have any cave dwelling. It looked like a simple courtyard. However, the illusion was very beautiful. There were pavilions and lofts, rockery and lake. Brother Qing Lin, why didn't you open up a cave dwelling? Lin Yun asked curiously. With Qing Lin's strength, it wasn't easy for him to open up a small world. In this way, the courtyard could be larger. Under normal circumstances, warriors would be more willing to live in a cave dwelling. Only ordinary people or low-level warriors would build a simple house like ordinary people to live in. Qing Lin smiled and said, "Feel it carefully." Moreover, in Emperor Dong's palace, no one would open up a cave dwelling. I believe you won't either. Hearing this, Xiao Qin and Lin Yun were suspicious. They tried to feel it carefully. For a moment, both of them were stunned. Not to mention the rich spiritual qi. After all, this was Emperor Dong's palace. It wasn't strange to have such rich spiritual qi. However, what really shocked Xiao Qin and Lin Yun was the origin energy floating in the air. That's right. The origin energy, which was extremely precious in the land of infinite stars, was floating around here. Although it was very thin, it really existed. They could feel the origin energy all the time. In this way, warriors who cultivated in Emperor Dong's palace would have a chance to break through to become a world lord even if they didn't have the origin energy. Even for experts at the level of Xiao Chun and Lin Yun, this origin energy was extremely useful. How could they not be shocked? Looking for collection, looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. As the owner of Emperor Dong's palace, Dong Huang got along well with everyone. They joked with each other, and Dong Huang didn't care at all. Moreover, everyone seemed to be used to this way of getting along. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun also slowly understood that in Emperor Dong's palace, there didn't seem to be any rules. Even when facing Dong Huang, everyone was more like friends. There were no false pleasantries. This was really a miraculous thing. Brother Xiao Chen, when do you plan to pick up Shui Rou and the rest? Lin Yun asked with a faint smile. Originally, she was worried about coming to Emperor Dong's palace, but now, it seemed that she didn't need to worry about it anymore. Since she was very satisfied with Emperor Dong's palace, she naturally wanted to bring her family over as soon as possible. After all, this place definitely had a better attitude than the Land of Infinite Stars, especially the cultivation environment. In response, Xiao Chen said with a smile, "Let's wait until the house is built. We can't let Shui Rou and the rest stay at Qinglin's place." "Well, that's good too. Then we'll go back together." "Okay." When there was nothing going on, there were no restrictions in Emperor Dong's palace. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun could also leave Emperor Dong's palace freely. Therefore, the two of them could plan their own time. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3099. They drank for an entire night. The people in Emperor Dong's palace were indeed enthusiastic. They were extremely welcoming towards Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's arrival. After a night, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun began to plan to build a residence. The two of them could choose any place in the entire Emperor Dong's palace. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun chose a place that was not close to the others. However, it was not far from Qing Lin and Zi Xian's residence. The construction of the house was not difficult. After all, there were so many people in Emperor Dong's palace. With everyone's help, the construction speed was very fast. Moreover, the materials used were the best. The people in Emperor Dong's palace had experienced this many times. They were already familiar with it. According to Xiao Chen and Lin Yun's request, the house was quickly built. However, it was not over yet. On this day, Lai Wan took the initiative to look for Xiao Chen and Lin Yun. He looked at their newly built house and said with a smile, "Not bad. However, we are still lacking something. It would be perfect if we could get a spiritual spring and spiritual vein." Xiao Chen and Lin Yun naturally knew what a spiritual spring and spiritual vein was. It was a real treasure. Hearing this, Xiao Chen asked curiously, "Brother Lai Wan, do you know where there are spiritual springs and spiritual veins?" Of course. It would be strange if Emperor Dong's palace did not have these things. Under Lai Wan's lead, the three of them quickly came to the northwest of the mainland. At a glance, there were more than 10 spiritual springs and many spiritual veins not far away. These were all accumulated by Emperor Dong's palace over the years. If they brought these spiritual springs and spiritual veins back to their residence, the spiritual energy would be extremely dense. They were definitely good stuff. There were also spiritual springs and spiritual veins in the sacred palace. However, regardless of quality or quantity, they were not as good as Emperor Dong's palace. At least 5 or 6 of these spiritual springs were supreme-grade spiritual springs and spiritual veins were the same. Xiao Chen and Lin Yun naturally chose these supreme-grade spiritual springs and spiritual veins. The Emperor Dong's palace was indeed rich and overbearing. They did not even send anyone to guard such a treasure. However, No one dared to have designs on the Emperor Dong's palace. Using its power, he moved the spirit spring and spirit vein directly to his residence. For a moment, the spirit qi in Xiao Chen's residence was extremely abundant. Just a single breath was enough to make one feel relaxed and happy. If such spiritual energy was placed in the outside world, it would definitely be enough to shock countless people and make them go crazy. With the spirit spring, spirit vein, and the house completed, the next step was to inscribe the formation. For example, if that cultivator was not dealt with in time, then that realm would probably be slaughtered by him very soon. Because after cultivating such a cultivation method, the further one cultivated, the more his mind would be devoured. He could no longer be called a human. Hearing Qing Lin's words, Xiao Chen nodded and said, "Are the three of us going?" "That's not necessary. You two see who will go with me. 2 people are enough. After all, he's just an evil cultivator. There was no need to send 3 kings. That would be giving this person too much face." Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded. In the end, after the 3 of them discussed, Xiao Chen and Qing Lin went. As for Lin Yun, she went to the land of infinite stars to bring Qin Shuru, Lu Bingning and the others back. This way they would not waste time. The 3 of them had no objections. On the same day, Lin Yun set off for the land of infinite stars. Xiao Chen brought Xianyuan Ling, Long Qing and Qing Lin to the realm where the evil cultivator was. This time, Qing Lin and Xiao Chen had the right to make the decision. Dong Huang meant that it would be best if they could capture him alive. After all, they could interrogate him about where the cultivation method came from. However, if they could not capture him alive, Xiao Chen and Qing Lin would choose to kill him on the spot and bring his corpse back. After leaving the Emperor Dong's palace and passing through the space tunnel, Xiao Chen, Qing Lin and the others arrived at the realm a few days later. This realm was not a powerful one in the eastern region. Its area was similar to the land of infinite stars, but its strength was much weaker. Before this realm was established, the strongest person was only at the divine ancestor realm. However, with the sudden appearance of this evil cultivator, this realm suffered a great loss. I don't know where this guy got his cultivation method. Logically speaking, such a technique should have been extinct long ago. We'll know when we find him. After entering this realm smoothly, Xiao Chen and Qing Lin spoke one after another. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Chapter 3100. The entrance to the realm was already guarded by people from Emperor Dong's palace. However, they did not enter rashly as the evil warrior's cultivation had already reached the warlord ancestor realm. He was not someone they could deal with. When they saw Xiao Chen and Qing Lin, they bowed respectfully. "Greetings, my lord." Xiao Chen was also the king of Emperor Dong's palace. His position was very high, second only to Emperor Dong. Qing Lin nodded. "Don't let anyone in." The place was immediately sealed off. Everyone nodded in agreement, and Xiao Chen and Qing Lin both stepped into the place. Looking at the 2 leaving figures, the warriors from Emperor Dong's palace began to discuss softly. "That's Xiao Chen? I heard he just joined Emperor Dong's palace. He's a warlord ancestor realm elite. He's not someone we can talk about. I didn't expect them to send 2 kings this time. Seems like Emperor Dong's taking this matter very seriously." Of course. After all, the evil warrior hasn't appeared for many years. "That's right. Especially where did you get that cultivation method from?" With their strength, they could not participate in the battle at the warlord ancestor realm. However, this did not stop them from guessing. As they went deeper into the realm, Xiao Chen and Qing Lin could sense that the realm was filled with a thick death aura. This was the aura that would only appear after a large number of living beings had died. It was the same during the Great War in the domain of infinite stars. However, Compared to the domain of infinite stars, the morale of the realm was much higher. Obviously, many people had died. Is the entire realm about to be massacred? Qing Lin's face was gloomy. They had passed by many continents, but they were all in pieces. Moreover, there was no sign of life on them. She could imagine that these continents had been massacred. Just one person could slaughter an entire world. It was obvious how dangerous evil martial artists were. It was no wonder that Emperor Dong took this matter so seriously and sent Qing Lin and Xiao Chen to come with him. Xiao Chen's face was gloomy as well. As they continued onward, they came to a continent not too far away from where they were. There were still living things here. However, the people on the continent were all horrified because a black figure was standing in the air above the continent. His entire body was emitting a dense black aura. This aura was very evil and even made people feel terrified. This aura was different from the devil race's devil chi. It was even colder. It was obvious that he had already reached the war ancestor realm. This person should be the target of Xiao Chen and the others, the evil martial artists. Everyone looked at the evil cultivator in the sky in horror. They were all frightened. A battle had already broken out earlier. Chapter 3101. Facing Xiao Chen and Qing Lin, the evil cultivator did not have the slightest bit of fear. In other words, he didn't know what fear was anymore. After practicing the evil cultivation method, his entire mind had been corroded. His mind was only focused on how to kill. It was as if there was a voice in his heart that kept telling him to destroy everything in front of him. Therefore, even when facing Xiao Chen and Qing Lin, the evil cultivator chose to attack directly. He was not afraid to fight against two people at once. Facing his attack, Qing Lin did not dodge. She directly threw out a punch. It was another head-on collision. As a war ancestor, Qing Lin's strength was not weaker than the evil cultivator. As for Xiao Chen, he naturally did not stay idle. When Qing Lin was clashing with the evil cultivator, Xiao Chen had already held the dustless sword and directly slashed out. The tip of the sword slashed out and hit the evil cultivator hard. Suddenly, a deep wound appeared. However, the strange thing was that after being injured by Xiao Chen, the wound quickly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it was as good as new. Seeing this, Xiao Chen let out a soft cry of surprise. It was strange that he could recover so quickly. Originally, it was normal to have such recovery ability when one reached the war ancestor realm. However, Xiao Chen was also at the war ancestor realm. Moreover, that slash had his own sword intent. Under the same cultivation, even if the evil cultivator was also at the war ancestor realm, it was impossible for him to recover so easily. Just like how Zixian was heavily injured by him before. It was impossible for her to recover in such a short time. This is the problem of the cultivation method. The evil cultivation method has many drawbacks, but its ability is also very heaven-defying. Qing Lin said at this time. She had encountered many evil cultivators, so she obviously knew more about them. Hearing this, Xiao Chen nodded. Since it could ignore his sword intent and forcefully recover, this evil cultivation method was indeed extraordinary. However, there was a limit to everything. Even if it was an evil cultivation method, it was impossible for it to recover without limit. If one slash was not enough, then 2 slashes would be enough to push the evil cultivator to the limit. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen once again slashed out with his sword. Perhaps it was because the previous attack had caused these evil warriors some pain, so they faced Xiao Chen's attack again. The evil cultivator no longer dared to ignore the attack and tried to block it. However, even though he managed to block Xiao Chen's attack, he was unable to block Qing Lin's attack. Qing Lin was also very sharp. She grabbed this opportunity and punched out, hitting this evil martial artist again. 2 against 1 was simply too easy. Xiao Chun and Qing Lin took turns to attack this evil martial artist. The purpose of his appearance was to kill the evil warrior and prevent him from falling into the hands of the Emperor Dong's palace. From the looks of it, he should be the mastermind behind this matter. When she saw this, Qing Lin's figure flashed and she wanted to chase after him. When she saw this, Xiao Chun did not stop her. Xiao Chun could tell that the mysterious man had underestimated Xiao Chun. Although the mysterious man seemed to have blocked his attack, Xiao Chun knew that he had injured the mysterious man. When he was injured, it was indeed the best time to chase after him. With a wave of his hand, he erased the evil warrior's corpse. Since he was dead, it was naturally useless. However, he could not leave the evil warrior's corpse to others. Hence, destroying it was the best choice. In a flash, Xiao Chun and Qing Lin disappeared from where they were and went straight in the direction that the mysterious man had retreated. In the void, the two of them kept moving. Soon, they saw a figure in a black robe. They could not see the person's face clearly. They could not even tell if the person was a man or a woman. The black robe should be some kind of magic treasure that could block others' divine thought. Even Xiao Chun and Qing Lin could not break it. Do it! Qing Lin shouted in a low voice. She immediately took the lead and slapped out a palm print toward the black-robed person. Xiao Chun, who was at the side, frowned. His intuition told him that something was not right. The black-robed person was very strange. In the face of Qing Lin's attack, the black-robed person did not show any intention of resisting. He only knew how to run. Although he had fled thousands of miles away, it was obviously impossible for him to dodge Qing Lin's attack. Could it be that he wanted to take Qing Lin's attack head-on? That was definitely an act of suicide. Under Xiao Chen's watch, Qing Lin's attack did indeed hit the black-robed person. However, the result was unexpected. The black-robed person seemed to have evaporated into thin air. Not even a trace of him was left behind. Seeing this, Xiao Chun and Qing Lin's faces turned ugly. Divine Soul Doppelganger. This was not the black-robed person's true body. It was something similar to a Divine Soul Doppelganger. However, it was of a higher level than a Divine Soul Doppelganger. At the very least, it could pass off as the real thing. Coupled with the black robe, even Xiao Chun and Qing Lin were fooled. Being fooled, Qing Lin gnashed her teeth in anger. Xiao Chun, on the other hand, looked pensive. It seemed that the appearance of the evil cultivator was not a coincidence. Someone had deliberately done it. But who was it? Xiao Chun did not know much about the situation in the entire eastern region. He could not think of any clues at the moment. However, now that things had come to this, he could only return to Emperor Dong's palace first. Damn you, don't let me find you! Chapter 3103. The evil warrior was just on the surface. To put it bluntly, killing the evil warrior wouldn't solve anything. As long as there was an evil cultivation technique, another evil warrior could be created very quickly. Moreover, the reason why the Emperor Dong's palace valued the evil cultivation technique was not only because it could erode one's mind, but also because of its speed of improvement. There was no such thing as talent or aptitude. Anyone who cultivated an evil cultivation method could quickly become an expert in a short period of time. Qing Lin and Xiao Chen were disappointed that they couldn't catch the mysterious man. After returning to the Emperor Dong's palace, they went to Donghuang's residence. Donghuang smiled when he saw them. "Come, try the tea leaves I just picked. You're still in the mood to drink tea? Things are messed up." Hearing this, Qing Lin said helplessly. Donghuang's expression did not change in the slightest. He personally brewed tea for the two of them and his wife even brought over some snack. Xiao Chen had seen Donghuang's wife before. She was a kind-looking old lady who was said to be in the combat ancestor realm. However, she rarely fought and rarely left the Emperor Dong's palace. Donghuang took a sip of tea and asked with a smile, "Why? The evil warrior escaped even when the two of you worked together?" "Not really. But there were some accidents at the end." After telling Donghuang everything that had happened, Qing Lin added with a serious expression, "Old man, I'm afraid it's not that simple. It must have been planned for a long time." They still didn't know what the mysterious man's goal was, but it definitely wasn't random. The mysterious man's goal should be in the East region. What exactly was he trying to do? It was likely that there would be a second or third evil warrior soon. When that happened, it would be the most troublesome. The only way to solve this problem was to find the mysterious man. Otherwise, everyone could only be on their guard at all times. Donghuang nodded lightly and said, "Mysterious man. It seems like someone is secretly watching the East region. Moreover, he's in the combat ancestor realm." A mysterious combat ancestor realm powerhouse hiding in the dark was a huge threat. Although the Emperor Dong's palace wasn't afraid of a head-on confrontation, they weren't fools. How could they fight head-on? What was even worse was that this person had an evil cultivation technique that had been proven to be enough to cultivate to the combat ancestor realm. They really didn't know where he got it from. Such a high-level evil cultivation technique wasn't easy to get. "Old man, we can't be careless from now on," Qing Lin reminded. Donghuang smiled. "Well, let's find the mysterious man's location. The first, they had to find the mysterious man's in the Emperor's palace." The Emperor's palace, the Emperor's palace's palace, the Emperor Dong's palace, the Emperor Dong's palace. The Emperor Dong's palace's palace, the Emperor's cultivations's, cultivators's, emperors of the Emperor. In addition to the official members, there were many registered members of Emperor Dong's palace. Many forces were registered members of Emperor Dong's palace. Not only were these nominal members unable to obtain cultivation resources from Emperor Dong's palace, but they also had to pay tribute to Emperor Dong's palace every year. However, after they became registered members, they also received the protection of the Emperor Dong's palace. To put it bluntly, they were using money to pay protection fees. Following the order of Emperor Dong's palace, countless people in the eastern region were on the move. Countless people were searching for the whereabouts of the mysterious man. Almost all suspicious people were interrogated. Of course, none of this had anything to do with Xiaoqin. The kings were only responsible for finding that person and killing him. While waiting patiently for the arrival of Qin Shuru and the others in Emperor Dong's palace, Lin Yun had already rushed to the land of infinite stars. Calculating the time, she should be on her way back now. With the existence of the space tunnel, it was very convenient even if the distance between heaven and earth was extremely far. Especially for the kings of Emperor Dong's palace like Xiaoqin and Lin Yun, they could use these space tunnels at will. After waiting for about 5 or 6 days, Lin Yun finally arrived at Emperor Dong's palace safely with Qin Shuru and the others. Upon arriving at their new home, Qin Shuru and the others quickly got into the mood and began to decorate. The new home built by Xiaoqin and Lin Yun was built with the best materials. Even the cave abode of the sacred palace could not be compared to it. This was because many of the materials in Emperor Dong's palace were not available in the land of infinite stars. In particular, those formations were of a much higher level than those drawn by Xianyuan Ling and Li Tian. Not to mention these two guys, during this period of time, a king in Emperor Dong's palace was learning the way of formations. "Father, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here is too rich." Xiao Chun, Xiao Qing, and Bai Ruyue sat together while Xiao Yao, Xiao Lao, and the others said in shock. In the land of infinite stars, the two little guys had seen the world. However, when they arrived at Emperor Dong's palace, they were still shocked by everything in front of them. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth was definitely the richest they had ever seen. In response, Xiao Chen smiled. "You'd better behave yourselves here. Don't provoke others." "Don't worry, father." Emperor Dong's palace was not like the land of infinite stars. In particular, Xiao Lao was the most impulsive. Xiao Chen had to warn him. It was worth mentioning that Dongfang Lin also came this time. As her mother, Dongfang Yun, had always been with Xiao Chen, she naturally came as well. The few little guys sat down for a while and started to wander around. Xiao Chen shook his head and smiled, then looked at Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue. "Father, mother, you must be tired from the journey. We are not that weak. How about you? How are you in Emperor Dong's palace? Are you used to it?" "Not bad. Emperor Dong's palace is a little different from what I imagined. However, father, mother, you can rest assured and stay here peacefully." Xiao Qing was worried about Xiao Chen's situation in Emperor Dong's palace. After all, this was not the land of infinite stars. However, the two elders obviously did not know that almost all the kings in Emperor Dong's palace had a family. For example, Qing Lin did not have a wife, a son, and even a grandson. The whole family lived in Emperor Dong's palace. There was nothing to worry about here. Moreover, everyone got along well. In addition, Xiao Chen and Lin Yun were both kings and had noble statuses. Usually, no one dared to provoke them. After chatting with Xiao Qing and Bai Ruyue for a while, he also invited Lin Yun and her family to have a meal together. It was considered as a celebration of everyone's housewarming. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.